Welcome to tonight's history lecture. Please make yourself comfortable, maybe even sit in your favorite chair, because in the next few hours we will explore the long and perhaps very boring history of Earth. You float in silence, wrapped in a darkness so deep that even time feels asleep. There is no sky, no ground, no sound, only the velvet hush of the cosmos stretching without edge. You drift as though you are both weightless and infinite, a small presence in a boundless sea. For a moment, there is nothing to notice, nothing to touch, nothing to hold. Then, ahead, a glow begins to swell, faint at first, like the smallest ember in a night without fire. It flickers, it swells, it pulses. Something stirs where before there was only stillness. That glow gathers strength, pulling matter inward, pulling fragments of dust and stone together. You watch as a young planet is born from fire and collision, a restless gathering of what the universe has scattered. Earth does not begin quietly. It is not gentle. It is loud, molten, heavy, and alive with storms of rock and flame. The sphere spins, not yet steady, its skin a restless ocean of magma. You feel the heat before you even draw close, an intensity that hums in your chest as though you are leaning too near to the heart of a star. The air is not the air you know. Here, it is thick with gases you cannot breathe, filled with vapors rising from a molten surface. The sky is hazy, shrouded in smoke and sparks. Lightning cracks through the ash, but no thunder reaches you. Only a silent flash, as though the planet's pulse beats faster than sound itself. You are not afraid. Instead, you sense something miraculous, something raw and unformed, the beginning of a story that will stretch across billions of years. The surface heaves like a restless ocean, though it is not water, but stone flowing like a liquid. Rivers of fire carve across mountains that rise and collapse in the same breath. Nothing here stays still. Volcanoes erupt not as rare events, but as constant exhalations, their plumes painting the sky with heavy clouds. You watch as craters form where asteroids strike, then vanish again beneath new floods of molten rock. Creation here is not delicate. It is wild and fierce, a storm that builds as it destroys, a storm that destroys as it builds. Yet within this chaos, there is rhythm. The spinning sphere begins to cool, slowly, reluctantly, but surely. Its outer layers thicken, forming crust, fragile at first, cracking again and again, but eventually holding. You see the skin of the planet forming, a surface that will one day become ground, a stage for oceans, forests, creatures, and stories. At this moment, though, it is still raw, jagged, unfinished, like a child learning to walk, unsteady yet determined. Above, The sky begins to shift. Clouds of steam and ash rise high, blurring the stars, thickening into a blanket. Rain has not yet begun to fall, but the air carries its promise, heavy with moisture. The heat of the surface churns this atmosphere, lifting and dropping waves of vapor, creating cycles that will, in time, cool the world further. You can almost hear it, the sound of the planet learning to breathe in long, slow sighs. The moon has already formed, born from a violent impact with another wandering body. It hangs nearby, closer than it will ever be again, glowing pale against the fiery horizon. Its presence steadies Earth's spin, guiding its rhythm, pulling on its tides that do not yet exist but will. You gaze at the moon and feel a kind of companionship in this cosmic silence, as though Earth, even in its infancy, is not entirely alone. The magma rivers slow, the crust hardens more, volcanoes continue to roar, but between eruptions, stillness lingers longer. Continents begin as fragments, drifting, colliding, reforming, though they are not yet the continents you know. The land is restless, but more solid, more sure. You sense that the planet is not just surviving, it is preparing. Preparing for water, preparing for life, preparing for stories. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine placing your hand on this young earth. The surface is too hot to touch, yet through your imagination you feel its thrum, a vibration running deep into your palm. This is not the heartbeat of a creature, but of a world. It is slow, steady, enduring. A reminder that even a planet can carry a pulse. Even stone can learn to move with rhythm. As you drift above, you see storms gathering in the sky. They are not storms of gentle rain, but of acid and ash, clouds swirling in colossal spirals. Lightning dances through them, brighter than anything you've known on Earth as it is now. These storms carry the building blocks of chemistry, elements thrown together, broken apart, and fused again. The air is a cauldron where atoms meet, split, and rejoin in endless combinations. From this turbulence, possibilities begin to flicker, molecules that will one day form the threads of life. But for now, there is only patience. The world must cool further. Oceans must arrive. The crust must settle. You drift in this waiting, as though Earth itself is pausing between breaths. It is not lifeless. It is simply not yet ready. And in that readiness, you feel something profound. The sense that beginnings do not arrive all at once, but slowly, carefully, in layers. The darkness of space presses around you, but Earth's glow keeps you anchored. You sense its warmth in your chest, a reminder that even in a universe of vast silence, sparks of fire can create homes. You think of the countless worlds that never became what this one is becoming. Some remained barren rock. Some were swallowed by their stars. Some spun endlessly without ever cooling. Yet here, before you, is a planet, choosing a different path, shaping itself into something more. The glow fades slightly as the crust thickens further. The magma no longer floods so easily. Pockets of stillness grow wider. In those pauses, you imagine what will come. Waters falling, pooling, spreading, shimmering. The thought is like a promise whispered in the dark, a lullaby hummed by the universe itself. You realize you are not only watching a planet awaken, you are watching possibility awaken. The ember that first caught your eye has become a world with a skin, a sky, a pulse. Its story has barely begun, yet already it holds within it the seeds of everything that will follow. You drift closer, feeling the gravity pull at you, gentle yet firm, as though inviting you to stay. And for a while, you do. You linger with this young earth, listening to its fiery breath, waiting with it, dreaming with it. And as you linger, you notice the silence shift once more. Not silence of emptiness, but of anticipation. The planet is cooling. Clouds are gathering. Something new is approaching. Something soft, flowing, and endless. You can almost hear it, faint as a memory of rain. The story moves forward, and you drift with it, drawn to the moment when oceans begin to fall. You hover above a world that has grown quieter. The fiery storms have slowed. The magma rivers no longer race unchecked. Earth, once a restless ember, is now wrapped in clouds so thick they dim the stars. These clouds are heavy, swollen with moisture, waiting for their release. You sense the pause before it begins, the hush before a new rhythm enters the planet's story. Then it happens. A drop falls, then another. Soon, countless drops follow, a cascade that does not end. Rain begins to fall upon the young earth, not for hours, not for days, but for centuries upon centuries. Imagine the sound of it, endless, unbroken, a soft percussion that reshapes the very face of the planet. It is not a storm to be feared, but a lullaby sung across stone. Each drop cools, soothes, and transforms. The rain falls onto lava fields, hissing and steaming. It fills the cracks, softening jagged edges. It seeps into craters carved by violent impacts, slowly turning scars into basins. The ground, once burning with fire, now sighs under the touch of water. Steam rises everywhere, clouds feeding clouds, the cycle repeating. What begins as rain becomes rivers, and what begins as rivers becomes seas. You drift lower through the mist and see valleys filling. Tiny streams weave together, joining into larger currents, threading across the land like veins, carrying life through stone. They pool into basins, spread across plains, and stretch outward until they become vast oceans. The earth, once red and black with fire, now glimmers blue beneath its clouds. For the first time, the surface mirrors the sky. The oceans do not form in silence alone. They arrive with thunderous waves, with crashing tides against raw coastlines. They carve, they smooth, they cradle, they test the boundaries of the continents, reshaping them even as they are born. You watch as cliffs collapse, as rocks tumble, as new shores emerge. The ocean's hands are wide, but they are also patient. Over millions of years, they polish the roughness of the world into something softer, more welcoming. As the water spreads, the air changes, steam clears, the sky opens, and sunlight begins to touch the oceans. Imagine standing here, watching light scatter across waves for the first time in history. The surface gleams, shimmering with reflections, as if Earth has finally found a way to smile back at the sun. You feel the planet's relief, its tension easing, its breath slowing. The oceans are not just water. They are chemistry in motion, a vast laboratory stirred by currents and storms. Minerals from the land dissolve into their depths. Lightning still cracks across the sky, striking the waters, sparking reactions. Molecules meet, break, and reform, testing countless combinations. You sense that something invisible is stirring here, the faint outlines of life not yet born, but already whispering within the waves. Drift deeper with your thoughts. Imagine the oceans from below, not as endless surfaces, but as worlds of layers. Warm water floats above cooler depths. Currents twist and spiral. Sediments drift like snow. Hydrothermal vents spew minerals into the dark, creating oases of heat in an otherwise cold abyss. These vents, like wounds in the planet's crust, may become cradles, places where the first sparks of living chemistry will one day flicker. For now, they are simply beautiful, fountains of minerals glowing in the dark, like stars at the bottom of the sea. The sound of the rain continues above, but softer now, absorbed by oceans that stretch wider each century. The more it rains, the more the earth cools, until finally the crust feels steady beneath its watery veil. Continents drift, but slower. Volcanoes roar, but less often. The world is calming, finding balance. You feel this calmness settling into your own breathing, as though you and the planet exhale together. Close your eyes and listen. Imagine lying upon this early earth, hearing the rain above and the waves below. The ground is no longer too hot, no longer too fragile. It is firm, carrying the sound of water as a lullaby. Every droplet that falls is a story of change, from fire to stone, from stone to sea. You realize how patient creation is, how gently it works when given time. And yet, within this gentleness, there is power. Oceans gather storms of their own. Winds whip waves into mountains. Rain falls harder. Lightning flashes brighter. The water that cools the planet also challenges it, shaping its surface with relentless force. Valleys deepen, shorelines shift, canyons open. The oceans do not simply arrive, they claim. They define the planet's new face. From above, Earth is now a blue sphere, a jewel against the blackness of space. The color is soft, calming, but it also carries weight. Blue means water, and water means possibility. The void that once held silence now holds promise. You drift farther back for a moment, watching the transformation. The ember you once saw has become something entirely different, something alive in its own way. The oceans stretch their arms wide, encircling the globe, pressing gently but firmly against every shore. They are restless, always moving, but they are also grounding. Without them, the planet would remain barren, dry, lifeless. With them, everything changes. The Earth now has a canvas vast enough for life to be painted upon. You imagine dipping your hand into these early oceans. They are not the gentle seas you know. They are dense with minerals, bubbling with strange chemistry, tinged with heat from the planet's interior. And yet, as your fingers drift in this thought, you feel the depth of their promise. Within these waters, the impossible will one day become possible. Look again at the sky. Clouds still linger, but between them, the first clear views of space appear. Stars shine faintly, and the moon, still close, casts a silver path across the newborn seas. The reflection shimmers with every wave, a dance between light and water. It is as if the heavens and the oceans are meeting for the first time, greeting one another with mirrored gestures. Centuries pass in the blink of a thought. The rains ease, though they do not end forever. The oceans settle into their basins, vast and deep, their surfaces still restless but less violent. The sound that once roared now hushes into waves, a softer rhythm, steady and eternal. This is the planet's exhale, its long sigh after an age of fire. You float above the water, feeling the cool mist against your skin. The air is clearer, fresher, though not yet one you can breathe. Still, it feels lighter than before, less burdened by ash and smoke. Earth has changed, profoundly, beautifully, and you realize that you are witnessing its first moment of peace. But even in peace, the story does not end. Beneath the waves, unseen to any eye, molecules continue their dance. They link, they break, they join again. They are experiments written in water, and though most fail, some persist. Somewhere in these depths, the first steps toward life are quietly rehearsing. The oceans breathe in and out with tides pulled by the moon. They inhale rivers. They exhale clouds. They are the lungs of the planet now, carrying its rhythm forward. As you listen, you hear their whispers, soft, endless, patient. They remind you that life's beginnings are never sudden, but slow, deliberate, and full of waiting. You drift once more above the blue sphere, watching the sunlight ripple across its oceans. You feel as though you are standing on the edge of a secret, something vast and unspoken. The planet is no longer only rock and fire. It is water, it is calm, it is possibility. And yet, possibility is not the same as life. Something is missing, something small but profound. You feel it lingering in the currents, waiting to appear. The question forms gently in your thoughts, like a tide rising without rush. What happens when molecules learn how to live? The oceans spread wide beneath you, their surfaces shimmering with the moon's silver light and the sun's golden fire. They seem calm now, but beneath their waves, something profound begins to stir. You drift lower, slipping through the veil of water, leaving the sky above, entering a world of shadows, currents, and hidden laboratories of creation. Down here, silence is not empty. It hums with chemistry. The oceans are heavy with minerals drawn from the cooling crust, with gases from the restless volcanoes, with fragments delivered by asteroids. Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen. Simple letters of a vast alphabet are suspended everywhere, waiting to be written into something greater. You hover near a rocky shore where hot springs bubble, pouring minerals into shallow pools. Each bubble bursts with a soft pop, carrying whispers of energy. Sunlight filters down, scattering in ripples. Lightning cracks above the sea, charging the air, striking the water. Energy flows through every corner of this world, feeding reactions, stirring possibilities. At first, there is nothing more than chaos. Molecules drift, collide, break apart. Most vanish as quickly as they form, but some linger. They cling for a heartbeat longer. They twist together, fold, curl into shapes that hold a kind of memory. These shapes, fragile as spider silk, are the first hints of something new. Order within disorder, pattern within chance. You imagine watching this dance in slow motion. Two molecules drift near, nudged by a current. They link. The bond is weak, but it holds long enough for another to attach, and another. Soon, a chain stretches across the water, delicate yet persistent. It bends, folds back on itself, finds a way to stay. You sense the beauty in this, something fleeting, daring to remain. In the warmth of shallow pools, in the dark vents deep below, such chains multiply. They test countless forms, exploring possibilities without knowing. Some collapse instantly, others persist, growing longer, more complex. They begin to copy themselves, imperfectly, but often enough to endure. These are not yet creatures, not yet alive in the way you understand, but they are more than stone, more than water. They are beginnings. The oceans cradle them like a patient parent, offering protection and challenge in equal measure. Waves scatter them, currents pull them apart, but always, somewhere, another spark forms. Over countless ages, patterns repeat, refine, strengthen. From these repetitions, survival is born. What fails vanishes. What works remains. In this endless experiment, The rules of life are being written quietly, invisibly, beneath the surface of an ancient sea. Imagine the first time one of these fragile chains discovers stability. It folds into a shape that can hold itself, defend itself against dissolution. It finds a way to draw energy from the world around it, from sunlight, from minerals, from heat. It does not know it is alive, but it moves toward persistence, and in persistence there is purpose. This moment is small, invisible to the eye, but it changes everything. The ocean is no longer just water, it is a cradle. The planet is no longer only rock and rain, it is alive. You feel the weight of that word, alive, settling gently into your thoughts. It means motion that sustains itself, patterns that remember, chemistry that learns. The earth has crossed a threshold, and though no creature walks its shores yet, the story of life has begun. You drift deeper into the darkness where sunlight does not reach. There, at the seams of the crust, vents gush with heat and minerals. Black smoke pours into the water, carrying iron, sulfur, carbon. Around these vents, strange reactions flicker. Molecules cluster in tiny chambers of rock, shielded from the chaos outside. These natural laboratories give them time, give them walls, give them space to try again and again until one configuration lasts. Here, in this darkness, life may have taken its first steps, not in light, but in shadow, not in silence, but in the bubbling roar of vents that never rest. The irony is tender. That life, with all its brilliance, might have begun in the most hidden corners of the earth. But it is not only in the depths. On the surface too, in warm pools kissed by lightning and sunlight, experiments unfold. Energy strikes the water, shattering molecules, recombining them into new forms. Thin films collect on the edges of rocks, trapping chemicals in tiny spaces where they cannot drift away. Within these micro-worlds, patterns strengthen, and whispers of self-replication grow louder. Wherever energy meets chemistry, the dance continues, and out of that dance emerges a strange rhythm, molecules that copy themselves, molecules that store information, molecules that begin to act like memory. Memory not of thoughts or stories, but of shapes, functions, survival. This is the language of life's first sparks. It is slow. It is fragile. Billions of failures surround each success. But time here is generous. The earth has no urgency. Centuries pass, millennia, millions of years. Patience itself becomes the sculptor, allowing the rare spark to endure. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the sparks gather strength. Chains of molecules fold into proteins. Strands of information begin to guide them. Together, they form capsules, tiny shells that protect what is inside. Within these shells, chemistry finds a home. These are the first cells, so small you cannot see them, but so powerful that they will one day fill the world. You lean closer in your imagination, as if peering through water clear as glass. A bubble forms, a membrane surrounds it, and inside, reactions repeat, faster and faster. It divides, creating another like itself, and another. They are not perfect copies, but close enough to survive, and different enough to change. This is evolution's first breath, the beginning of adaptation. What endures will shape the future. You feel a shift in the planet itself, subtle but certain. No longer only stone, water, and air. Earth now carries a new dimension. Biology. The oceans, once silent, now hum with invisible life. It is not yet visible on the surface, but within the water, countless microscopic worlds bloom. They drift with the currents, multiply in stillness, gather near vents, scatter across pools. Everywhere, tiny sparks of survival glow. Pause for a moment. Imagine the loneliness of a world without life, the silence of waves without witnesses. Now, imagine the difference as even the smallest living cell appears. The silence is broken. The planet is no longer alone. Something can notice, respond, adapt. Something can grow. You sense the humility of this beginning. No grand creatures rise, no forests bloom, no birds take flight. Only microscopic cells float in the water. Yet within them lies the potential for everything, every tree, every animal, every human thought. All of it begins here, in simplicity, so fragile it would vanish, without patience, without oceans, without the quiet persistence of molecules learning to live. And so, the planet waits with them. The sun rises and sets, the moon pulls the tides, volcanoes rumble, rains fall. Above, nothing seems to change, but below, everything is changing. Each tide carries billions of tiny experiments. Each storm feeds them with new energy. Slowly, invisibly, the sparks of life root themselves deeper. You drift upward again, rising through layers of ocean. From above, nothing is visible. No forests, no fish, no birds. Only blue water stretching in every direction. Yet you know now that beneath the surface, something extraordinary has begun. The ocean is no longer empty. It carries a heartbeat. The thought settles into you like a lullaby. Life is small at first, quiet at first, hidden at first, but it is there. And once it begins, it does not stop. It will spread, change, grow, until the planet itself is transformed. You feel the inevitability of it, the promise unfolding beneath your feet. And as you drift higher still, back toward the stars, you sense the next question forming. If life can spark from chemistry, how will it shape the planet that holds it? How will it breathe, change the air, paint the world in new colors? Beneath the ancient seas, life is still small, so small that it drifts unnoticed in the vast blue. Countless microscopic cells float with the tides, carried like dust in a cosmic wind. To the eye, the oceans look empty. To the truth, they are teeming. Each droplet carries whole worlds of chemistry, delicate and determined, working quietly towards something unimaginable. Some of these cells learn a secret. They discover a way to drink sunlight, to capture its energy, to weave it into food. It is simple. It is miraculous. Photosynthesis. With sunlight, water, and carbon, they create what they need. And in doing so, they release something else, something invisible, something they do not know will change the fate of the planet. They release oxygen. At first, the gas dissolves into the water, unnoticed, absorbed into currents, reacting with minerals. The oceans are filled with iron, dark and heavy, and the oxygen binds to it, turning it rusty red. Over millions of years, layers of iron settle on the sea floor, painting stone with stripes that will remain as ancient memory. The oceans themselves change color, shimmering with new clarity as the iron sinks, as chemistry reshapes itself. Still, the oxygen builds. Slowly, patiently, invisibly, it accumulates. It rises through the water, bubble by bubble, until it reaches the surface. From there, it slips into the air, at first in small amounts, then more, then more. A new atmosphere begins to form, one that carries breath before anything exists to breathe. You drift above the oceans, watching. At first the skies are still hazy, thick with gases from volcanoes, dimmed by clouds of methane and carbon dioxide. But with each passing age, oxygen clears the air. The sky deepens into blue, open and transparent. For the first time, sunlight falls upon the earth unobstructed, bathing the oceans in gold. The planet exhales differently now, carrying a rhythm that will shape every story to come. For life itself, this change is both gift and threat. Oxygen is energy, but it is also fire. To many early cells, it is poison. Whole communities of microbes vanish, unable to survive in this new chemistry. Others adapt, hiding in places untouched by oxygen, in deep mud, in hot springs, in shadows where the new air cannot reach. Yet some flourish. They learn not only to tolerate oxygen, but to use it, to draw energy from it more powerfully than ever before. Survival shifts. Evolution leans toward new directions. You sense the paradox of this moment: destruction and creation, death and possibility, bound together. The earth does not soften its changes. It transforms with both harshness and generosity. In this transformation, the atmosphere itself becomes alive, a canvas painted by cells too small to see. Look down into the seas again. They shimmer differently now. Sunlight penetrates deeper, colors scatter more richly. Greens, blues, even hints of purple ripple in the water, stirred by blooms of photosynthetic life. These blooms grow so vast they can be seen from space, swirls of color across the oceans, like brushstrokes on a living canvas. What was once a barren surface now shines with new vibrancy. The rocks on land also change. Iron-rich stones rust, staining cliffs and rivers with hues of red. Entire layers of Earth's crust become monuments to this chemical revolution. Later, these will be called banded iron formations, silent witnesses to the time when oxygen first arrived. To the planet itself, they are scars of transformation, but also signs of progress. You breathe slowly as you listen to this story, and you realize something gentle. The air filling your own lungs right now was once impossible. Every inhale you take is an inheritance from these ancient cells, from their quiet work in forgotten seas. Without them, the sky would not be blue, the air would not be breathable, and life would not climb beyond the oceans. Every breath is a gift billions of years old. But here, in this chapter of the Earth story, no creature yet breathes it. The air is ready before lungs exist to use it. It waits, patient, filling the skies, shaping the planet's shield against radiation, clearing the way for complexity. Oxygen becomes a promise stored in the atmosphere, a future written in advance. You hover at the edge of the atmosphere now, looking down. The Earth gleams blue, brighter than ever before. Clouds drift white across its surface. Oceans roll with light. The planet has changed once again, not in fire, not in flood, but in breath. And this breath is not metaphorical. It is real, tangible, the invisible presence of oxygen, expanding, reshaping, preparing. This is balance, but it is fragile. Too much oxygen could ignite the world. Too little, and complexity cannot rise. The planet holds this balance delicately, as though carrying a flame cupped in its hands. You sense its care, its patience, its precision. The smallest cells are painting the largest story, and the planet listens to them, responds to them, changes with them. The blue of the sky now mirrors the blue of the seas, a harmony between above and below. The earth seems calmer, more familiar, more like the home you know. Yet it is still alien, still empty of forests, of animals, of voices. The air is ready, but the land waits bare. It will be a long time before lungs test their first breath. For now, the planet breathes alone, quietly, through its oceans of tiny architects. Close your eyes and imagine standing on an ancient shore. The wind brushes your face, carrying the faintest trace of oxygen. The sky arches clear above you, vast and blue. The waves roll in steady rhythm, whispering against stone. You are alone here, but you feel the presence of something greater, the presence of air becoming alive. And in that stillness, you realize the world has learned to breathe, even before its creatures have. The planet itself is preparing the stage, filling the air with possibility, waiting for life to rise into it. You drift now into an age of quiet. The fiery storms have faded, The oceans no longer boil with rage, and the skies rest clearer than before. Earth has slowed its breath, entering a long, patient rhythm. Here, time seems to lengthen, stretching out like a horizon you can never quite touch. 1 billion years pass, but you feel them not as noise or change, but as a lullaby of stillness. In the shallow seas, the world's first carpets are laid down, microbial mats, soft and delicate, spreading across stone like ancient rugs. They are humble things, no taller than a grain of sand, yet they anchor themselves with purpose. These mats bind minerals, trap sunlight, and stitch together the loose threads of a restless planet. When waves pass above, they sway not as individuals, but as one breathing fabric. You watch them glowing faintly with the gift of photosynthesis, gathering light from the sun and turning it into energy. It is quiet work, invisible and uncelebrated, yet relentless. Slowly, they reshape the world around them. They give oxygen not in bursts, but in whispers, the air shifting molecule by molecule until the sky carries more breath than before. If you listen closely, you can almost hear the faint hum of life weaving its long tapestry. In other corners of the ocean, corals begin their secret building. They are not yet the vibrant reefs of later ages, but small colonies of stone and living tissue. Their skeletons stack upon one another in patience, creating miniature fortresses against the tide. It is construction on a scale almost too slow to notice, yet millennia after millennia, the reefs rise, shaping the contours of the shallow seas. You feel the rhythm of their labor, steady as a heartbeat stretched across centuries. Still, this is a world without hurry. There are no rushing animals, no forests echoing with calls, no wings stirring the air. Life exists as patterns of cells, as colonies that grow and fold, multiply and rest. Even as oxygen builds, much of it is swallowed by rocks, by oceans, by the earth itself. It will be a long time before creatures can truly breathe. For now, the planet savors a gentle balance. The silence is not emptiness. It is full of hidden gatherings, microbial cities clinging to stones, layered communities forming in shallow pools, stromatolites, layered mounds of microbes, rise slowly like the planet's first monuments. Each layer is a diary of sunlight and sediment, written page by page, year by year. You glide past them, reading not words but colors, pale blues, soft greens, rusty reds. They tell the story of patience, of life content with repetition, of survival as art. Above the seas, the land waits in stillness. Bare rock stretches for miles, carved by winds, brushed by rain, but no green yet grows there. To walk across it would feel lonely, a silence so wide it echoes. Yet even this barren landscape holds promise, like a blank canvas yearning for its first strokes of paint. You sense the anticipation, though no creature is there to feel it. This long quiet age is not wasted. It is the foundation upon which all else will stand. Without these early builders, there would be no oxygen-rich skies, no stable reefs, no stage prepared for the grand play of animals to come. The planet is like an artist sketching slowly, carefully, before color and movement are added. You rest within this sketch, feeling its deliberate strokes. Time here is strange. 1 billion years pass as slowly as a single sigh. You notice the cycles repeating, the sun rising and falling, tides pulling in and out, mats of microbes growing, dying, and growing again. There is comfort in this constancy, a reminder that not all creation comes from sudden bursts or violent changes. Sometimes it is the steady, almost invisible rhythm that shapes the deepest foundations. You drift closer into the details of this world. On a grain of sand, you see colonies of cells clinging together, sharing resources, protecting one another from harsh currents. In their cooperation lies the faint outline of something new, a lesson life will carry forward. Survival is stronger together. On another rock, bubbles of oxygen rise, tiny beads of air that shimmer before dissolving. They are like the first breaths of a world still learning how to inhale and exhale. The ocean floors are not empty plains, but mosaics of activity. Sulfur-eating microbes cluster near vents, thriving in the warmth that seeps from below. Others linger in shadow, waiting for sunlight to filter down. Though they are invisible from afar, up close, their worlds are as intricate as any forest or savanna that will one day exist. They are the hidden architects, unseen but essential. This chapter of Earth's story is one of patience. Patience so vast, it dwarfs human imagination. To you, accustomed to the rush of moments and the ticking of clocks, it feels almost endless. Yet here, in this calm, you find rest. You feel yourself slowing, matching the rhythm of the world's long breath, surrendering to the gentle repetition of tides and light. You realize that silence is not the absence of life, but the soil from which richness can grow. Without this billion-year stillness, the later explosion of creatures would have nowhere to stand. The calm is not empty. It is preparation. The seas remain the heart of this age. Within them, life practices, refines, and strengthens. The microbial mats grow thicker, the reefs stronger, the oxygen richer. Everything is being readied, though nothing yet reveals what is to come. It is as though the planet itself knows that before great symphonies, there must be long tuning of instruments. As you drift above the waves, you feel the lull of repetition, the comfort of cycles without urgency. It is easy to rest here, to let your own thoughts slow into alignment with Earth's patient heartbeat. And yet, in the stillness, you sense an undercurrent, a quiet tension building, as though the silence cannot last forever. Something stirs, not in haste, but in inevitability. The calm has been long, but the world is preparing for motion. You linger a moment longer, suspended between serenity and anticipation. as if standing on the edge of a dream not yet begun. The quiet has been deep, the patience vast, but soon, the silence will break. The silence of 1 billion years begins to stir. After long patience, after the endless repetition of single cells growing, dividing, and forming colonies, something different unfolds. Life, having practiced in whispers, dares to sing a note louder. It does not happen quickly. It does not happen with fanfare, but it happens. Cells begin to work together, not just as clusters, but as communities with roles, with shape, with purpose. This is the dawn of multicellular life. You hover in the shallow seas where sunlight filters down like liquid gold. Here, small experiments of form emerge. Some are flat sheets of cells, thin as parchment, rippling when currents pass. Others are hollow spheres, their walls alive, their centers filled with water. A few grow into filaments, weaving threads through the ocean, delicate and almost invisible. They are fragile, but they are new. The first bodies, the first attempts at something larger than a single self. For a long time, they remain simple. Bodies of jelly, soft and without bones, float dreamlike in the water. They pulse gently, not with the precision of hearts, but with waves of movement passing through their tissues. You drift beside them, sensing their strangeness. They are not animals, as you know them, not yet, but they are more than mere colonies. Each cell has learned to surrender part of its independence, to live as a piece of something greater. This surrender is not weakness. It is the beginning of cooperation, a kind of trust written into biology. Some cells take in sunlight, others provide structure. Still others move the whole body with gentle contractions. Together, they form a being, not one, but many, and yet somehow one. You feel the quiet triumph of this arrangement, the way unity creates new possibilities. Around you, the ocean becomes a floating garden of strange, soft-bodied creatures. They have no eyes, no bones, no shells. Their shapes are lace-like, translucent, almost as if the water itself has decided to take form for a moment before dissolving again. You drift among them as though in a dream. Some resemble leaves, others ribbons, others discs that flutter with the currents. Their bodies are like sculptures made of breath. The world is still calm, but less silent than before. Where once the seas were dominated by microbial mats and the slow building of reefs, now there is movement, however gentle. These early bodies drift, tumble, and sway. They do not yet hunt in any fierce way. They filter sunlight, absorb nutrients, or gather food carried by currents. It is a time of experiment when life is testing what a body can be. The name scientists will one day give this age is the Ediacaran. But for you, floating here, it feels more like wandering through a gallery of living art. Each creature is a canvas of possibility, a sketch of futures yet to come. They glow softly in the filtered light, some patterned like fans, others branching like ferns. Though they are not plants, they are something in between. Not quite plant, not quite animal, but something entirely their own. You watch as sheets of cells curl into tubes, tubes fold into chambers, chambers weave into tissues. The possibilities multiply. each variation like a question asked by the ocean. What can life build with cooperation? For the first time, there is inside and outside, surface and depth, a body containing more than the sum of its parts. Some bodies spread wide and thin, maximizing the surface that touches water. Others grow thick, sculpting layers upon layers. A few even begin to move, not fast, not purposeful, but with faint undulations, drifting not just where currents take them, but where they choose to go. Choice, however small, has entered the world. This is not yet the rush of the Cambrian explosion, the dramatic flowering soon to come. This is still the calm before, a quieter revolution. But within these early bodies lies the seed of all animals to come. Muscles, nerves, organs, skeletons, all will grow from these first experiments. You can almost sense the future folded into their jelly-like forms, as though every creature yet to live is waiting inside, asleep. The ocean floor beneath you tells its story too. Impressions are left in the sand, where these soft-bodied beings once lay. Later their fossils will appear like faint shadows pressed into stone, fronds, discs, quilted patterns. They look like delicate etchings, as though the earth itself drew sketches before painting with bolder strokes. These fossils will confuse those who find them, billions of years later. Were they animals, plants, a lost lineage? The answer is both clear and elusive. They were experiments, bridges between worlds. You drift closer to one such creature, a long, feather-like frond anchored in the sediment. It sways gently, filtering the water. Its surface ripples with tiny patterns, each cell alive, each one working in harmony. It has no mouth, no eyes, no brain, yet it thrives. Another nearby creature resembles a segmented quilt lying flat against the seafloor. Its sections pulse faintly, as though carrying whispers from one end to the other. They are simple, and yet they are profound. The first attempts at many-bodied life. The beauty of this age is its fragility. These creatures are soft as clouds, easily torn, easily erased. Storms could scatter them. Shifts in currents could bury them. And yet, for tens of millions of years, they flourish quietly. The ocean is a cradle, rocking them gently, allowing them to grow, to refine, to prepare. As you float, you realize that cooperation is not just a biological event. It is a lesson written into the heart of existence. Together, cells find strength they cannot achieve alone. In their unity, they create complexity, resilience, and wonder. You feel that lesson echoing beyond biology, into stars that cluster into galaxies, into rivers that gather into oceans, into human lives that intertwine. The stillness of Earth's story now holds a soft hum of possibility. The ocean is no longer only a mirror of the sky, but also a canvas of bodies, moving, breathing, living. The calm patience of the billion years before has prepared this moment. The emergence of forms that can change, adapt, and eventually think. Time stretches again. Millions of years rolling by like waves. The creatures grow more diverse. Some develop shallow cavities that one day will become stomachs. Others form ridges that may hint at muscles. Some learn to glide more smoothly, while others anchor themselves more firmly to the seafloor. Every variation is a rehearsal. Every attempt a step towards something greater. You drift among them as though in a dream. They do not see you, for they have no eyes. They do not hear you, for they have no ears. But they share with you the same ocean, the same rhythm of light and tide. You feel both apart from them, and deeply connected. And as you linger, you sense the inevitable. This garden of soft bodies will not last forever. Soon, harder shells will form. Mouths will open. Predators will swim. The quiet art of the Ediacaran will give way to the drama of the Cambrian. The stillness will shatter into colour, motion, and conflict. For now, though, you rest in this world of lace and jelly, a world fragile as a dream, knowing it is only the beginning of many bodies, many shapes, many stories. The silence cannot hold forever. For 1 billion years, Earth has waited, its oceans calm, its lifeforms soft and dreamlike. The Ediacaran gardens drifted like lace in slow currents, delicate and unchallenged. But balance never stays still. Change gathers in the quiet, and one day it tips. You feel it before you see it. The water vibrates with a new kind of energy, a quickening pulse that has not been there before. Where once life was fragile and slow, now it grows bold. Shapes sharpen, movements quicken, possibilities multiply. This is no gradual unfolding, no gentle drift. This is a bloom, sudden, wild, and astonishing. The Cambrian has begun. You drift into oceans transformed. Where once there were soft fronds and quilted mats, now creatures swarm in numbers and forms almost overwhelming. Bodies are no longer only jelly and lace. They are armoured with shells, braced with spines, edged with fins. Some sprout eyes that glitter like jewels, catching light and shadow. Others grow legs that paddle, fins that thrust, claws that seize. Life has discovered invention, and it pours forth in an eruption of creativity. It feels like the ocean itself has awakened, restless after too long a dream. Here swims Anomalocaris, the strange shrimp. Its body ripples with segmented grace, its swimming flaps undulating like ribbons in water. 2 great appendages curl before its mouth, lined with spines, sweeping prey into a circular jaw. It is one of the first true predators, a hunter in a world unaccustomed to being hunted. Where it glides, other creatures scatter. Its presence changes everything. Nearby, trilobites crawl across the seafloor in countless numbers. Their bodies are armoured plates, ridged and jointed, built for both protection and motion. Some burrow into mud. Others scuttle across open ground. They're among the earliest explorers of mobility and defence. Their compound eyes scanning the water with a vision more complex than anything before. Millions upon millions of them march across the seabed, an empire of exoskeletons. The diversity is dizzying. Sponges filter water with their pores. Worms wiggle in burrows and tunnels. Small shelled creatures called brachiopods root themselves to the seafloor, waving feathery arms to catch food. Even stranger forms glide past. Creatures shaped like combs, discs, or cones, each trying out some new solution for survival. It is as though nature has opened a chest of possibilities and spilled them all at once into the sea. You notice how quickly the game changes when predators appear. Where once life drifted in gentle harmony, now there is chase and escape. Fins evolve for speed, shells for armour, spines for deterrence. Eyes sharpen to see, jaws strengthen to bite, muscles coil to lunge. Survival is no longer only about existing. It is about competing, adapting, outlasting. The oceans feel alive, not only with bodies, but with urgency. There is movement everywhere. Tiny shrimps dart in schools, their legs flickering like silver threads. Ribbon-like creatures twist in spirals as they swim upward, shimmering in the light. On the seafloor, burrows crisscross like highways. signs of worms tunneling for both safety and food. Life is no longer content with stillness. It is restless, experimental, in constant motion. And yet, amid the rush, there is still wonder. The forms themselves are breathtaking. Frilled appendages, armoured ridges, branching limbs, glowing eyes. Each creature feels like a dream given body, a sculpted imagination swimming in water. You float through them as though in a forest where every tree, every flower, every leaf is different and alive. The Cambrian bloom is not just about more creatures. It is about complexity. For the first time, ecosystems truly form. Webs of interaction where the success of one species shapes the fate of another. The predator thrives only if prey survives. The prey adapts only if the predator sharpens. Coral-like structures grow, offering shelter. Burrowing worms churn the sediment, reshaping the seafloor. Tiny plankton bloom, feeding larger grazers, who in turn feed hunters. It is no longer a world of isolated beings, but of connections, an intricate dance where every step influences another. The seas echo with the invisible tension of this new dance. To you, it feels both exhilarating and uneasy. There is beauty and abundance, but also fragility and competition. Where one creature thrives, another may vanish. Indeed, many of the Cambrian's experiments will not survive beyond this age. Some forms are fleeting sketches, erased almost as soon as they appear. Others will endure, ancestors of creatures still alive in your own time. You drift closer to a cluster of trilobites, watching them feed. Their legs rake through sediment, gathering organic matter. Suddenly, a shadow glides overhead. Anomalocaris descends, its great appendages curling inward. The trilobites scatter, some escaping into burrows, others flipping themselves to swim clumsily upward. One is caught, drawn toward the circular moor. In moments, it is gone. The ocean grows still again. You feel the tension in this encounter, not violence as cruelty, but as necessity. For the first time, survival depends on both invention and vigilance. Evolution accelerates, driven by the urgency of interaction. Where once changes took eons, now they unfold rapidly, generation by generation, as species adapt to one another's presence. Eyes evolve in sharper forms, capable of detecting motion, of seeing predators before they strike. Shells thicken, spines lengthen, patterns emerge for camouflage. Muscles refine into new modes of movement, crawling, swimming, wriggling, darting. Life has entered into dialogue with itself, and the conversation is rapid, unrelenting, full of invention. The Cambrian Ocean feels crowded with possibilities, every corner hosting new life. Creatures filter nutrients from currents. Others graze across microbial mats. Still others hunt with claws, teeth, or grasping appendages. Each has a niche, a role, a story. You sense the balance shifting and reshaping every moment, ecosystems knitting together like threads in a vast living tapestry. And yet, even amid this riot of abundance, the ocean is not chaotic, it is symphonic. Each species plays its part in a harmony that, though tense, creates balance. Without prey, predators vanish. Without predators, prey overrun. Without plankton, grazers starve. Without grazers, the food chain collapses. It is fragile, yes, but it is also resilient, capable of holding together through change. You drift upward, closer to the surface, where sunlight dances in ripples across the water. Here, swarms of tiny organisms gather, the ancestors of plankton that will one day sustain whales. They shimmer as they move, like dust motes in a beam of light, but each one is alive, each one essential to the abundance below. The great bloom of life depends not only on large predators and armored grazers, but also on these smallest of beings. Drifting unnoticed yet vital, time races forward, though you feel it still as a gentle dream. Millions of years pass, and the bloom continues, diversifying, experimenting, weaving more and more forms into the ocean's garden. Some lineages vanish, others adapt and endure. Each extinction clears space for new possibilities. Each survival refines the experiment of life. You begin to sense the pattern, creation and loss, abundance and extinction, always in rhythm. The Cambrian is not a single burst, but a sustained unfolding, a bloom that continues until the seas hold a richness unlike anything before. It is the first true age of animals, the opening chapter of complex life on Earth. And as you linger here, you realize how familiar this abundance feels. The fish you know, the insects, the mammals, the birds, all trace their ancestry back to this moment, to these first experiments in shells, eyes, limbs, and teeth. You are witnessing the origin of complexity itself, the foundation upon which every later life form will stand. The seas around you shimmer with motion, with urgency, with possibility, and yet beneath it all you sense a question forming. For every bloom, there is a shadow. Life has grown diverse but also vulnerable. A change in climate, a shift in ocean chemistry, an unforeseen catastrophe could end much of this abundance. Already the earth has shown that it holds both creation and destruction in balance. For now, though, the bloom continues. You float among the armoured, the swift, the strange, marvelling at their forms, their movements, their endless invention. The ocean feels alive in a way it never has before, restless, creative, filled with urgency. You breathe with it, sensing both wonder and tension. The bloom is beautiful, the bloom is fragile, and the bloom cannot last forever. The oceans have sung their bloom, filling with shells and fins, with eyes that see and jaws that bite. But life does not stay contained forever. The seas are vast, yet the horizon whispers of more. Slowly, cautiously, life leans toward the land. At first it is only a hint, algae creeping onto damp rock, green films spreading near the edges of rivers and shallow pools. They are fragile, dependent on moisture, burned by sun when the water recedes. Yet they cling, experimenting, reaching towards something new. And then, over millions of years, the experiments succeed. Plants rise. You step softly onto a world in transformation. What was once barren stone and sand now glimmers with colour. Mosses, liverworts, and ferns unfurling their fronds. At first they hug the ground, small and low, but slowly they begin to lift. Stems strengthen, tissues stiffen, roots press deeper into the soil. The first forests awaken. They are not like the forests you know. The air feels thicker, rich with a different balance of gases. Oxygen builds higher than at any other time, a gift from these ancient green towers. You breathe it in and feel the freshness flood your chest, almost intoxicating, as though every breath carries twice the weight of life. Around you, giant club mosses rise, their trunks rough, their crowns spreading into spiky plumes. Some stretch more than 30 meters into the air, their bark armoured, their leaves stiff. Horsetails, enormous compared to their modern descendants, climb skyward in segmented stalks. Ferns, delicate yet ambitious, unfurl spirals of green lace, carpeting the ground in endless layers. You look upward and the canopy sways, a patchwork of greens filtering sunlight into golden beams. It feels like a cathedral of plants, vast and solemn, built not of stone but of living trunks. Every surface drinks light. Every leaf hums with photosynthesis. The forests breathe, and the atmosphere swells with oxygen. The ground beneath your feet is dark and soft, layers of fallen fronds and trunks pressed into wet earth. Over time, this plant matter will sink and compress, turning into coal, the black memory of forests locked into stone. Millions of years later, humans will burn these ancient remains, releasing their stored sunlight back into the air. But here, in this moment, the forest is still alive, still rising, still weaving its green empire. You walk further in and hear new sounds. The buzz of wings, the skitter of legs across bark. Insects flourish in this oxygen-rich world, growing larger than any you know today. Dragonflies the size of hawks dart through shafts of light, their wings shimmering with iridescence. Millipedes as long as a human body curl through the undergrowth, their many legs rippling like waves. Beetles, primitive yet bold, scuttle across leaves, their shells gleaming. The air is alive with motion, with the murmur of creatures testing the forest as their home. Some are grazers, nibbling on tender fronds. Others are scavengers, cleaning the detritus of fallen leaves. Still others are hunters, stalking with patient steps. For the first time, the land thrums with ecosystems as rich as those in the sea. Rivers wind through the green, carrying reflections of trees along their meanders. In the shallows, strange amphibians crawl from water to land, their bodies half adapted, their lungs testing the open air. They linger near the edges, never far from water, yet daring to explore the forest floor. Their skins glisten, their movements awkward, but they are pioneers. The first vertebrates to breathe the forest oxygen directly. You pause, listening. The forest is not loud, not yet filled with bird calls or mammal cries. Instead it hums with a steady, ancient calm. The whisper of wind in fronds, the crackle of insects, the distant splash of creatures slipping back into rivers. It is a slower, deeper rhythm, one that feels as though time itself has thickened. In this era, the Carboniferous, life's experiment with land accelerates. The forests stretch wider, blanketing continents in green. They are not scattered groves, but vast, unbroken expanses, swamps and woodlands extending for hundreds of miles. The sheer abundance of plants draws down carbon dioxide, cooling the planet, altering the climate. The earth itself shifts under the influence of roots and leaves. Roots dig deep into the soil, breaking down rock, releasing minerals. Rivers change course, their sediments captured and held by vegetation. The land is reshaped by plants as profoundly as the seas were once reshaped by microbes. Everywhere you look, the influence of greenery spreads, stabilizing, enriching, transforming. And with oxygen so abundant, fire appears. Lightning strikes can set forests alight, flames racing through ferns and trunks. Fire becomes a new player in life's story, a force of destruction and renewal, cycling nutrients back into the soil. You can almost smell the smoke drifting on the wind, faint and ancient, a reminder that even abundance carries its shadows. Yet the forests endure, they thicken, rise and fall, their cycles stretching across millions of years. For every fire, new growth returns. For every fallen giant, seedlings climb into the light. You sense the resilience of these early ecosystems, their ability to adapt and recover, their patience written into every ring of wood, every spiral of fern. You rest at the base of a towering club moss, its trunk ridged and ancient, its crown reaching high into the dim light above. Insects crawl along its bark, their small worlds busy and intricate. A dragonfly passes close, wings beating with a sound like delicate rattling glass. For a moment, you feel both tiny and vast, small within the forest's immensity, yet connected to its breath, its rhythm, its life. This is a world before flowers, before seeds, before birdsong. Yet it is also a world of abundance, of green cathedrals, and air so rich with oxygen, it feels almost heavy in your lungs. You feel the planet alive in every direction. Its surface is covered now not only with water, but with forests, swamps, and tangled roots. You imagine how different Earth looks from above. No longer a barren land fringed with algae, but a planet wearing green, its continents cloaked in forests, its rivers winding like silver threads through dark canopies. It is a transformation as profound as the Cambrian bloom. Life has claimed the land. The calm of these forests is deep, but it is not eternal. Already, you sense that shifts will come. Climate will change again. Continents will move. The forests will wax and wane, their reign lasting millions of years, but not forever. Still, for now, they stand in majesty, monuments of green reaching into the sky. You breathe deeply, letting the forest air fill you. The insects hum, the rivers flow, the canopy sways. It is as though the earth itself has entered a new kind of dream, not of oceans and shells, but of trunks and leaves, of forests rising toward the sun. The forests rise, green and endless, and oceans shimmer with creatures of every shape. Life has found rhythm, diversity, abundance. Yet abundance is never a guarantee of permanence. Earth carries in its depths a restless memory, and from time to time it speaks in fire, ice, or stone. You sit quietly, watching the forests sway, and you feel it, a shadow forming, invisible at first, but certain. Extinction is part of Earth's language, a punctuation in the story of life. And now, one of those pauses begins to deepen. It starts slowly, as it always does. Small shifts ripple through climate. Seasons stretch colder, then hotter. Rains come too heavy or not at all. Volcanic mountains erupt, spilling lava that runs for miles, covering forests and choking rivers. Ash fills the air, dimming sunlight, painting skies in red and grey. Beneath the surface, oceans warm or cool in ways the smallest cells cannot tolerate. Entire chains of life begin to weaken. You listen to the silence that grows at the edges of sound. Where once dragonflies hummed, and amphibians croaked. The voices fade. A hush spreads, not all at once, but in widening circles. Whole species disappear, leaving gaps that cannot be filled. In the oceans, the losses are profound. Trilobites, those ancient armored travelers of the sea floor, dwindle. They have survived for millions of years, adapting to countless changes, but now their numbers collapse. Coral reefs bleach and crumble, leaving barren stone where once there were underwater gardens. Fish scatter, their schools broken. The waters, once full of motion, seem to still. On land, the forests suffer too. The giant club mosses and horsetails, once so dominant, wither. Swamps dry, soils shift, and the vast green cathedrals thin. Amphibians, tied so closely to water, find their homes shrinking. Insects falter, their great wings no longer filling the air with constant buzz. The rich chorus of the carboniferous world weakens into a whisper. You close your eyes, and for a moment, the silence is overwhelming. It is not just the absence of sound, but the absence of possibility. Where once there was diversity, now there are only empty spaces. It feels fragile, as though the world itself holds its breath. These extinctions are not accidents, but patterns written into Earth's long memory. They come in waves, each driven by forces larger than any single species. Sometimes the trigger is volcanic, eruptions that last not days, but centuries, pouring greenhouse gases into the air, warming the planet until oceans turn acidic. Other times the planet chills, glaciers advancing, ice sheets swallowing coastlines and altering the balance of life. And sometimes, as it will again in ages to come, a rock from the sky delivers sudden, catastrophic change, ending worlds in an instant. You see these forces not as punishments, but as shifts. Earth reshapes itself through loss, carving room for what will come next. The end of one age creates the beginning of another. Still, sitting here in the hush, you feel the weight of fragility. Life seems strong when it fills every space, but strength is always tested. The great die-offs mark thresholds in history. Scientists will one day call them mass extinctions, 5 of them standing out in Earth's record like dark chapters: the Ordovician, the Devonian, the Permian, the Triassic, the Cretaceous. Each wipes away much of what came before. Each opens space for the unfamiliar. Each leaves scars that will take millions of years to heal. Now you are witnessing one of these shadows, the Permian, the greatest of them all. Nearly all marine species vanish, more than 9 of every 10. Forests collapse. Insects that once thrived in giant forms dwindle. The world becomes quiet, stripped down almost to its bones. It is as if life itself trembles on the edge of disappearance. You walk across a barren plain that was once swamp. The ground is cracked, the trees fallen, the rivers shallow. The sky holds a haze of dust and gas, turning the sun dim and coppery. You kneel, touching the soil, and feel how dry, how lifeless, how still it has become. Yet even in this silence, something remains. A few species endure, small survivors clinging in pockets of shelter. A fish in a stream, a fern in a shaded valley, a reptile burrowing into the ground to escape the heat. These survivors carry resilience like a secret, tucked into their very being. They will seed the next chapter, though you cannot yet see what shapes will come. You realize that extinction, painful as it feels, is not the end of the story, but part of its rhythm. Life is fragile, yes, but also persistent. It bends, breaks, and yet finds new forms. Each silence is temporary. Each pause is followed by a new song. You take another breath, noticing how the air tastes faintly bitter with volcanic ash. The forests are gone, the insects diminished, the seas nearly emptied. But the earth itself still turns, still waits. Beneath the loss, a potential stirs. Space has been cleared, and though the silence stretches long, it is not eternal. In this moment of hush, you are deeply aware of time's scale. Millions of years stretch before you, slow and heavy. Recovery will not come quickly, but life has patience written into its very fabric. The survivors will wait, adapt, change. New forests will rise. New creatures will emerge. The hush will not last forever. You imagine standing here when sound returns, hearing the calls of new species, seeing bodies unfamiliar to this world, watching Earth reinvent itself. What feels like loss now will become the foundation of wonder later. But here, in this chapter, you sit with the silence, honoring its weight, acknowledging the fragility it reveals. The hush deepens, and you let yourself rest in it. For all the beauty of life, there is always the shadow of its impermanence. Yet within impermanence lies renewal. Within silence lies the promise of sound. You rise, looking out across the dim horizon, and though the land is quiet, you know it will not remain so. Life waits, hidden in soil and stream, in burrows and seeds. The earth is patient, and the story is not finished. The hush after extinction stretches long, like the pause between breaths. For millions of years, the earth seems emptied, stripped of its forests and its crowded seas. The silence is not absolute, though. In hidden valleys and quiet streams, small creatures endure, and among them are the reptiles, survivors shaped for the new world. They emerge into a planet different than the one before. The air is hotter, the land drier, the forests thinner. Amphibians, once rulers of the swamps, struggle to keep their moist skins from drying in the sun. But reptiles, with their scaled armor and tough eggs that do not need water to survive, thrive. They are creatures of resilience, born for sunlight and stone. You walk across a warm plain and you see them, the first reptiles basking on rocks, their bodies sleek and patient. Some are small, no larger than lizards, quick to dart into crevices when shadows pass. Others grow larger, with teeth sharp enough to catch fish or small prey. Their eggs, buried in sand or soil, hatch young that can breathe the air without returning to water. For the first time, vertebrates are free to roam the land without ties to rivers or swamps. The reptiles spread, adapting to every corner of the planet. Some become turtle-like, with shells for armor. Some stretch long, serpentine, winding across the forest floor. Others climb into trees, testing new heights. Their bodies are like experiments, each form trying a different answer to survival. The world grows warmer, more stable. The silence of extinction loosens its grip, and life begins to flourish again. Forests return, though smaller than before, and rivers carve fresh paths through stone. Insects buzz once more, though not as enormous as in earlier ages. The land hums with possibility, and reptiles seize it. Then, over millions of years, something astonishing begins. Some reptiles grow larger, much larger. Their legs, once sprawling out to the sides, straighten beneath them, lifting their bodies higher. Their necks lengthen, their tails extend, their bones lighten, their muscles strengthen. You stand in awe as these creatures take shape, the first dinosaurs. At first they are modest in size, no bigger than a dog or horse. They walk on 2 legs or 4, their teeth sharp or blunt depending on their diet. They roam in small groups, testing the land. But time favors them. The earth's conditions, the richness of plants, the open spaces, all give them room to expand. Slowly, generation by generation, dinosaurs grow into giants. You step softly into a valley and see them in their majesty. A sauropod stretches its neck high into the canopy, pulling down branches with a slow grace. Its body is vast, its tail sweeping behind like a living bridge. The ground trembles with each step it takes, yet its movements are calm, unhurried, as if time itself bends to its rhythm. Nearby, herds of smaller dinosaurs move together across the plains, their calls echoing in low, resonant tones. Predators stalk them, swift and fierce, with teeth like knives and eyes sharp with hunger. But even the hunters are part of the balance, their presence shaping the vigilance of the herds. You watch as a predator lunges, scattering the group. Dust rises, feet thunder, tails whip. The chase is violent but brief, ending with silence once more. Life and death weave tightly here, neither cruel nor kind, only necessary. The reptiles that became dinosaurs are not the only ones to rise. Others take to the skies. From among their ranks emerge creatures with wings of skin stretched across elongated fingers. The pterosaurs. You look up and see them gliding, their shadows flickering across the ground. Some are small, no bigger than birds, while others span wings wider than a small plane. Their calls crack the air, but their flight seems effortless, like dreams stitched into the sky. In the seas, too, reptiles claim dominion. Ichthyosaurs swim like dolphins, their bodies sleek and fish-like. Plesiosaurs stretch long necks from the waves, their paddle-like limbs propelling them gracefully. Mosasaurs lurk, vast and dangerous, jaws wide enough to swallow prey whole. The oceans, once ruled by trilobites and ancient fish, now belong to reptilian giants. You wander between land, sea, and sky, and everywhere, reptiles reign. The earth has shifted from hush to thunder, from emptiness to abundance once again. Yet it is a different abundance than before. Where insects once dominated, now scales and claws and tails stretch into every realm. The air feels richer again, though less thick with oxygen than in the forests of giants. The forests themselves are different, filled with conifers, cycads, and ferns, their shades of green deeper and harder. Flowers have not yet come. The world is still waiting for their softness. Instead, the land feels rugged, resilient, suited to the heavy steps of dinosaurs. You pause at the edge of a river and watch as a herd of duck-billed dinosaurs drink, their reflections rippling in the current. A pterosaur dives above them, catching a fish with the snap of its jaws. The sun glows hot in the sky, and the creatures move slowly, saving energy for dusk or dawn. You feel like a guest in their realm, small but safe, carried by the rhythm of their world. The days pass, and you learn the calm beneath their thunder. Though they are giants, their lives are not constant battles. Most of the time is spent grazing, walking, resting. Their movements are steady, almost meditative. They live within the balance of earth, just as the forests and rivers do. You touch the ground and feel vibrations, the slow beat of footsteps carrying through the earth. It is a reminder that this age belongs not to small voices, but to bodies so vast they reshape the land by moving across it. Trails are carved where they walk. Forests bend where they feed. Even the air carries their presence, heavy with their breath. As you walk among them, you sense how time itself slows. Millions of years pass like heartbeats, and dinosaurs diversify into countless forms. Some grow armored backs, shields of bone and spikes to ward off predators. Others sprout crests and frills, their skulls adorned with ornaments for display and recognition. Still others evolve into predators faster and more cunning, each adaptation a reply in the endless conversation of survival. The earth in this era feels confident, filled with creatures certain of their place. The silence of extinction seems far away, almost forgotten. Yet you remember. You know that every abundance carries a shadow. Life flourishes, but it is never immune to change. You close your eyes, letting the warmth of the sun sink into your skin. Around you, dinosaurs graze, drink, and rest. The thunder of their movement has become a lullaby, steady and low, calming in its immensity. For now, they are the masters of land, sky, and sea, spreading wide in forms more diverse than imagination once dared. Still, the question lingers in your heart: how long can such reign endure? The age of reptiles thunders on, heavy footsteps echoing across plains and forests. Dinosaurs tower, graze, and hunt, their bodies immense and sure. Yet even within this world of giants, Small changes stir quietly, almost invisible at first. Evolution, subtle and patient, begins to sketch something delicate, a feather. At first, feathers are not for flight. They appear as fine filaments, branching like downy threads along reptilian skin. They insulate, trapping warmth against small bodies, turning cold nights survivable. They shimmer faintly in sunlight, perhaps for display, perhaps for camouflage. These fragile structures, simple as they seem, hold within them a promise. You crouch beside a small, feathered dinosaur no larger than a chicken. Its body trembles with life, its movements quick and sharp. It rustles its plumage, shaking dust into the air, as if proud of its new adornments. The feathers are not yet wings, but they carry the future folded within them. Over time, feathers grow more complex. Some spread wide, catching air as the creatures leap. Others lengthen and stiffen, creating surfaces that can push against wind. Muscles adapt, bones lighten, balance shifts. The experiments of countless generations accumulate, and slowly wings are born. You look upward and see one of the first flights, clumsy, halting, but real. A small creature leaps from a branch, feathers splaying wide, and instead of falling, it glides. The air catches it, holds it, carries it further than legs alone could travel. The leap becomes a glide, and the glide becomes in time true flight. The skies, once silent except for the drift of wind, begin to fill with motion. Early birds rise, tentative at first, then confident. Their wings beat in steady rhythm, lifting them higher, farther. They dart among trees, skim across lakes, soar above coastlines. The earth, long claimed by creatures of water and land, now yields its skies to feathers. You wander through a forest at dawn, and you hear it, a sound new to the world, birdsong. At first, it is simple, chirps, trills, calls of warning or attraction, but together they weave a music unlike any heard before. Where once the land echoed with the growls of reptiles and the buzzing of insects, now it rings with melody. The calls carry across valleys and rivers, echoing against cliffs, threading through leaves. Some are sharp and urgent, others soft and liquid. To your ears, they feel like a conversation, a chorus of life celebrating the open air. You close your eyes, and the songs lift you, carrying you as surely as wings. Not all feathers take to flight. Some remain for warmth, for display, for signaling. Dinosaurs wear plumes in shades of rust, gold and black, strutting with tails adorned like banners. Feathers become language, a way to attract, to warn, to boast. Evolution is never single-purposed. It scatters possibilities like seeds, and feathers blossom into many roles. But in the sky, feathers achieve their greatest poetry. Birds grow stronger, more graceful, their bones hollow and light, their lungs efficient, their wings tuned to currents. They explore heights no reptile has reached, circling above mountains, riding thermals across plains. The world grows larger through their eyes, horizons widening with every beat of wing. You walk to a cliff's edge and look out. Below, a river coils through the land. Forests stretch green, and herds of dinosaurs move like shadows. Above, birds wheel in arcs, their cries sharp against the wind. They seem to belong not only to the earth, but to the space between earth and sky, messengers of freedom, of possibility. In their flight, you sense a new kind of resilience. Where land can flood and forests can burn, the sky offers escape. Birds can flee, migrate, seek new homes. They are not bound to a single place. The air itself becomes their path. This mobility ensures their survival, a quiet strength carried on feathers. You pause, breathing deeply. The air feels different when you share it with wings. Each gust is alive, each current touched by beating feathers. You sense how the planet has changed once again, how life has found yet another way to expand. From stone to ocean, from ocean to land, and now from land into sky, Earth keeps unfolding. The dinosaurs still dominate, their giants unchallenged. Yet in the corners of the world, among branches and cliffs, something quieter thrives. Birds, small and light, endure where heaviness cannot. Their songs fill silence, their flight softens thunder. You realize they are not just another kind of reptile, but something altogether new. Creatures of air, carriers of melody. As dusk falls, you rest beneath a tree. Above, the sky glows with the last light of day, and silhouettes of birds cross against it. Their wings cut dark shapes across gold and violet clouds. One swoops low, close enough for you to hear the rush of air in its feathers, the whisper of movement. For a moment, you feel lifted, as though your own body could rise. The night deepens, but the music does not fade. Some birds sing even under the stars, their voices piercing the quiet. You lie back, eyes closed, and let the rhythm cradle you. The songs are tender, insistent, eternal. You feel them etch themselves into memory, the sound of life discovering its newest gift. In their wings, you sense both fragility and strength. A feather can fall, torn and broken, yet together they carry a body into the heavens. So too does life itself rise from fragility, piecing strength from countless delicate threads. The earth breathes with wings now, and you drift with it, knowing skies will never again be empty. The world is heavy with the presence of giants. Dinosaurs stretch their immense forms across plains and swamps, their footsteps shaking the earth, their breath misting the morning air. The forests echo with reptilian cries, thunderous and deep, as if the land itself is alive with their songs. Yet beneath this spectacle, hidden in hollows, tunnels, and the dark corners of night, another story quietly unfolds. You crouch low in this secret world, where the shadows cradle creatures far smaller, yet brimming with something new. These are mammals, fragile, fur-covered beings. their bodies warm with a fire that never fully dims. Unlike the cold-blooded rulers above, they carry the sun inside them, tiny hearths beating steadily in their chests. Their hearts move quickly, their breaths shallow, but in their warmth lies a promise of endurance. You watch one stir from its burrow, whiskers twitching, eyes wide and alert. It does not walk with grandeur, nor does it roar into the air. It scurries, it listens, it waits. Its survival is not in strength, but in patience, in the art of remaining unseen. Above, great reptilian predators roam in search of dominance, but down here, life flows in quieter rhythms. The mammals live in pockets of safety, beneath roots, within crevices, in the folds of earth that giants overlook. They dig, they nest, they curl into each other for warmth. Their lives are swift, often brief, but within that brevity beats an ingenuity unknown to larger beasts. Tiny paws clutch seeds, sharp teeth gnaw at roots and insects. Theirs is not a kingdom of power, but of persistence, a slow weaving of existence through caution and care. Their bodies are soft, pliable, vulnerable. A single misstep can make them prey, yet they do not despair. Instead, their strength lies in adaptation. In the silence of night, when the thundering feet of dinosaurs fade, they emerge. The stars reflect in their glossy eyes. Their noses trace the scents of hidden food, and their ears swivel at the faintest rustle. Every sense sharpens. Every moment matters. You lie with them in the underbrush, feeling the hush of their world. Time here seems stretched, slower than the roaring pace of the reptilian age. 1 billion heartbeats pass in the hidden dark, lives beginning and ending, each generation passing on its quiet resilience. For over 100 million years, they remain small, their destiny deferred, yet their presence steady. Within their fragile forms, a revolution stirs unseen. Warm blood pulses, offering independence from the sun's heat. Fur grows thick, holding warmth in cold nights, protection in damp caves. Milk flows from mothers, nourishing their young with care no reptile can match. These small differences, almost invisible now, carry the seeds of vast futures. You sense the intimacy of their lives. A mother curls around her young, heartbeat steady against their tiny frames. She feeds them not with chance, not by abandoning them to the world, but with herself. A bond of sustenance, a thread of devotion. In this act of nurture, a new kind of love takes shape, gentle and enduring. It is not yet spoken, not yet thought, but it is felt. A quiet promise that life can be more than survival. Around you, generations cycle. Burrows collapse and are rebuilt. New niches are explored. Some mammals climb trees, some slip into waters, some dig deeper tunnels. They experiment with life in small, cautious ways, each step a fragment of possibility. The dinosaurs above may rule, but these hidden mammals begin to map other worlds, the understory, the night, the places overlooked. The planet itself changes slowly. Forests rise and fall, seas withdraw and return, climates shift like tides of breath. Through it all, the mammals endure, not by towering strength, but by nimbleness. Their story is one of waiting, one of preparation. It is as though they carry a secret within, something they guard until the moment arrives. You walk among them in silence, careful not to disturb their fragile domain. You marvel at how small they are, how insignificant they might seem in comparison to the thunderous giants above. And yet, in their smallness, there is something profound, a softness that holds within it the possibility of dreaming, of imagining futures unseen. The dinosaurs bask in the sunlight, but the mammals hold on to the night. Theirs is the realm of moonlight and starlight, of whispers in the dark. They do not seek glory. They do not crave dominion. They simply live, heart to heart, generation upon generation, carrying forward a resilience as steady as the beat of their warm chests. It is here, in this quiet, that you begin to feel time differently, not as a rush of events, but as a patient unfolding, a preparation for what is yet to come. The mammals remind you that not all life surges forward with urgency. Some lives choose the rhythm of waiting, of holding steady, of enduring through stillness. And so, the world above may roar, may thunder, may crash with the force of dominance, but beneath, the hidden mammals persist. You rest with them in the hush, breathing their gentle air, sensing the warmth of their small bodies pressed together. They dream of nothing, and yet, in their survival, they dream of everything. The story of Earth is still young. The giants above seem eternal, but nothing lasts forever. Shadows lengthen, cycles close, and in the silence, possibilities gather like seeds. The mammals do not know what lies ahead. They only live their quiet lives, heartbeats quick, eyes alert, waiting without knowing they are waiting. You lie with them one last time, feeling the calm, the patience, the deep endurance of their hidden existence. Above, thunder still reigns. But here below, in the warmth of the small and the quiet, another future slowly takes shape. You feel it stirring, faint and unresolved, like the breath before a storm. The day begins like any other. Dinosaurs stretch beneath the sun, vast necks sweeping over forests, tails tracing patterns in the dust of riverbanks. Pterosaurs glide on warm currents of air, their wings painting silent arcs across the sky. Insects hum, fish ripple the shallows, plants drink steadily from the soil. It feels eternal, this rhythm of life, as though the world has found a balance that could last forever. But forever is never promised. High above the earth, beyond the reach of any living gaze, a traveler approaches. A stone, older than the forests, older than the seas, has wandered the cold silence of space for eons. It carries no intention, no malice, yet its path aligns with Earth, and in that alignment lies an ending. You feel the air shift before anything is seen. A silence deeper than usual settles, as if the earth itself is holding its breath. Then, across the morning sky, light flares brighter than 1,000 suns. The stone, burning, tears through the heavens. The atmosphere screams as it surrenders to the impact. When it strikes, the world changes in an instant. A roar shatters the air, louder than any thunder, deeper than any mountain's collapse. The ground heaves like water, waves of stone rolling outward from the wound. Forests topple, seas surge. Creatures stumble in panic, their cries lost beneath the relentless sound. The stone embeds itself in the earth, releasing energy equal to billions of bombs. Rock melts, the sky ignites. In the heartbeat of a moment, the old age begins to end. You hover near the impact, but safely apart, watching fire rise like a tide. Forests ignite far beyond the crater, flames leaping tree to tree, turning lush green into glowing ash. The winds howl with fury, carrying sparks across continents. The very air grows hot enough to sear. For days, the firestorm rages. The world that once echoed with dinosaur calls now roars with flame. Creatures run, but there is nowhere to go. The great reptiles that ruled for millions of years stagger under a sky of embers. And then, slowly, the fires give way to something colder. Dust, ash, and smoke veil the atmosphere. The sun, once steady and golden, becomes a dim memory behind a curtain of grey. Light falters, warmth ebbs. Plants, robbed of their lifeline, wither. Forests crumble not by flame now, but by silence. Leaves fail to unfurl, flowers never open. The green of the earth dims, and hunger follows. The dinosaurs, who once seemed eternal, falter. The giants cannot find enough food to sustain their massive bodies. Even the predators, swift and fierce, cannot outrun scarcity. One by one, their thunder quiets. The great age of reptiles, so long enduring, fades not with a roar, but with silence. You wander through this quieting world, the air heavy with ash, the earth littered with fallen forms. It is grief made landscape, an ending painted across every horizon. Yet even in this stillness, you sense something faint, something persistent. Life does not end here. It shifts. Beneath the blanket of dust, in burrows deep in the ground, in crevices hidden from fire, the small ones endure. The mammals you once rested with stir cautiously. Their tiny bodies, their quick hearts, their quiet ways of living become their strength. While giants falter, the small survive. They eat what remains, seeds buried in soil, insects that cling to life, roots hidden in darkness. Their size, once a disadvantage, now becomes a gift. You kneel close to them, feeling their warmth in the cold ash of the world. Their mothers still curl around their young, still give milk, still carry forward the fragile rhythm of survival. In the face of disaster, they cling to life not through power, but through patience. Days pass, weeks, months. The dust still lingers, but faintly, light begins to return. Pale shafts of sunlight pierce the grey veil. Plants sprout timidly through the ash, green against black. Insects return to dance above puddles of rain. The earth breathes again, slow and shallow, but alive.
And the mammals rise with it.
Where once they hid in shadows, now they step cautiously into the open. With the giants gone, the land stretches wide, empty spaces waiting to be filled. Forest floors, riverbanks, plains, all are open. And though they do not yet know it, these small beings will inherit the world. You walk beside them as they emerge, soft-bodied and alert. They sniff the air, their whiskers brushing new leaves. They scurry into trees, swim through streams, dig fresh burrows. Each step is tentative, but each step is also a claim. This world belongs to them now. The earth itself feels different, lighter though scarred. The silence of loss remains, but within it grows the whisper of renewal. A rhythm is beginning again, not the thunder of dinosaurs, but the quick pulse of mammals. You feel it, this turning of ages, as though the planet itself exhales after holding its breath too long. From fire and dust, from shadow and silence, a new chapter begins to unfold. Yet the memory of what was lost lingers. You stand at the edge of a field, blackened by fire, and see in your mind the long necks of sauropods reaching for leaves, the wings of pterosaurs tracing the sky, the roars of predators echoing through valleys. They are gone, but their memory is folded into the soil, into the rocks, into the air you breathe. The earth keeps its history not in books or voices, but in scars and cycles. Every ending becomes a beginning, every silence a stage for new songs. You look once more to the mammals, scurrying with nervous energy, their hearts beating fast. They do not yet know the vastness of what awaits them. They are only surviving, only living day by day. And yet, within their small frames, lies the possibility of futures vast and unimaginable. This day of fire and dust is not just an ending, it is also an inheritance. And as you breathe in the still, cooling air, you feel the truth settle in your chest. Endings are never final. They are the soil in which beginnings root themselves. The sky, still pale with ash, softens. Light seeps through. A world, though wounded, waits to be remade. You close your eyes, listening to the heartbeat of the small creatures at your side. Soft, steady, insistent. A sound that carries the weight of everything yet to come. The silence after fire and dust does not last forever. Slowly, quietly, the earth gathers itself. Rain falls more gently now, washing ash from rivers, softening scorched soil, cooling the air that once burned. Each drop carries renewal, each stream a quiet reminder that nothing stays barren forever. In valleys blackened by flame, the first shoots push through. Tiny leaves, fragile as breath, rise against the weight of ash. Moss creeps over fallen trunks, weaving green blankets across charcoal scars. Ferns unfurl their curled fronds, slow and certain, reclaiming ground. The land, once wounded, begins to heal. You walk through this tender landscape, sensing the courage of small beginnings. Here, a cluster of flowers bends toward thin sunlight. There, a tree's roots grip cracked stone, patient in their reach. Rivers, once choked with silt, run clearer each season, their waters carrying silt that feeds new life. The earth remembers how to be green, and with green, life multiplies. The mammals, once hidden in burrows, follow the return of plants. They grow bolder, braver. Some stretch taller, their bodies lengthening with legs made for speed. Others grow heavier, finding strength in size rather than stealth. Shapes diverge like branches of a tree. Paws become hooves. Claws adapt for digging, limbs for climbing, tails for balance. You pause at the edge of a clearing, watching a herd thunder across the plains. Their hooves drum against the soil, a rhythm steady as a heartbeat, pulsing through the ground into your own chest. They move together, alert and graceful, grazing on grass that spreads in endless carpets. What was once forest floor becomes an ocean of green blades swaying beneath wide skies. Elsewhere, forests rise higher. Trees stretch with ambition, their trunks thickening, their crowns forming dense canopies. Leaves filter sunlight into soft, shifting mosaics across the ground. Mammals climb here too, nimble bodies leaping branch to branch, tails curling for balance. Birds scatter through the canopy, their songs blending with rustling leaves, adding music to green silence. You feel the world becoming familiar, the shapes, the movements, the sounds. They begin to echo the landscapes you know. There is recognition in the curve of a deer's leap, in the roar of a river, in the flight of a bird, startled into sky. The earth is building towards something you can almost touch, a rhythm closer to your own reflection. By the rivers, mammals wade, their trunks curling toward treetops, pulling down leaves. Their size rivals the memory of dinosaurs, but their presence feels gentler. They move slowly, thoughtfully, shaping forests with every branch they strip, every trail they press into the earth. Beside them, smaller creatures scurry and call, each finding their niche in this layered living web. The air itself has changed. Where once smoke choked the horizon, now oxygen flows freely, thick with the breath of forests. The sky deepens blue again, clouds gathering in soft billows, shadows stretching across green hills. You breathe deeply, the air cool and sweet, carrying the faint perfume of flowers, the resin of pines, the damp promise of rain. Cycles reawaken, flowers open, insects pollinate, seeds scatter on wind. Rain falls, rivers swell, and soil renews. Predators emerge too, sleek bodies designed for pursuit, their eyes sharp, their teeth precise. Life is not without tension, yet even in the chase, balance holds. Where one life ends, another is nourished. Where one tree falls, light opens for new growth. The earth has learned this rhythm: destruction and renewal, loss and return. You stand in the middle of it, feeling time ripple through you. It is no longer the distant alien world of molten rock or giant reptiles. It is softer, nearer. In the twitch of a mammal's ear, in the cautious blink of its eyes, you see glimpses of something familiar: curiosity, care, even wonder. The planet is not only surviving, it is preparing for more. Each season, the landscapes grow more intricate. Grasses cover vast plains where herds gather. Forests deepen with shadows where predators wait. Mountains wear coats of green, while valleys pulse with rivers braided in silver threads. It is a world alive in every corner, full and breathing, each piece woven into the next. You walk along a hillside, watching the horizon curve into distance. A breeze stirs the grass, carrying seeds into the air like tiny ships. In the hush, you sense not only the return of life, but the shaping of something profound. The mammals who once hid now run free. The forests that once burned now stretch to the sky. The earth heals itself not in haste, but in patience. And as it heals, it writes a new invitation: to grow, to flourish, to imagine futures still unwritten. You pause, listening to the steady chorus: birds, rivers, winds, leaves. It is not the silence of extinction, nor the thunder of dinosaurs. It is a softer, steadier song. A song of beginnings that feels close to your own pulse, close to the world you know, close to the life you will one day inherit. The forests sway, the plains breathe, the rivers sing. The earth has returned to green. And still you feel, this is not the end of healing, but the beginning of something greater. The forests are alive, the plains stretch wide, and rivers run with the clear pulse of renewal. For millions of years, mammals have flourished here, reshaping the earth in gentle steps. Some grow vast and lumbering, some swift and graceful, others sly and quiet. The balance holds, each life weaving into the next, each season carrying the story forward. But among them, in certain corners of Africa's warm savannas, a different kind of life begins to stir. Not larger, not faster, not stronger, but different. You watch them emerge from the shade of acacia trees. Their bodies are small compared to the elephants roaming nearby, their pace slower than the antelopes who streak across the plains. Yet there is something in their movement that makes you pause. Their eyes are sharp, lingering not only on what is seen, but on what it means. They stand upright, balanced awkwardly, yet steadily on two legs. Their hands are free, curious, restless. You see one crouch to pick up a stone. It is not the first to do so, but this time, the action is different. The stone is not only held, it is shaped. Struck against another, edges splinter into sharpness. The creature's eyes glint as it feels the new form in its hand. A tool is born. This is not survival by instinct alone. This is survival shaped by thought. You linger beside them as they test their discovery. Stones cut through roots more easily now, open nuts with cleaner strikes, carve meat from bone with swifter precision. With each attempt, knowledge grows. One tries, another imitates. The act spreads, weaving into their small communities. For the first time, skill becomes memory, and memory becomes inheritance. Nights on the savannah are long and cold, yet here too, something changes. You watch sparks leap from stones struck together until one ignites a fragile flame. At first, the creatures fear it. The flicker, the crackle, the unpredictable dance. But slowly, they draw nearer. They feed it with sticks, with dry grass, with patience. The flame grows steady, and they sit close. Fire becomes warmth. Fire becomes light. Fire becomes protection against the dark. You sit with them around the glow, feeling the warmth brush your skin. Their faces shine in amber hues, eyes reflecting flames as if holding stars. They huddle close, not just for heat, but for something deeper, for connection. For the first time, life gathers around more than survival. It gathers around meaning. The days unfold in rhythm. They move across the savannah in small bands, foraging, hunting, sharing what they find. Their voices are still simple, but they carry cadence, sounds that reach beyond mere warning, sounds that begin to hold ideas, a gesture, a call, a glance. Together they weave a language not yet spoken, but already felt. You follow them along the rivers, through tall grasses, under skies vast and cloudless. Their footprints join the tracks of lions, zebras, and elephants. But there is something different in their stride. Each step seems to wonder, where does this path lead? The seasons shift. Rain brings green abundance, dry months strip the land bare. In both, they endure, not through strength alone, but through imagination. You watch them shape wooden spears, bind stones to sticks, carve points that reach farther than their arms. The hunt changes. Prey once too swift, too strong, now falls to coordinated hands, to shared effort. But more than tools, more than fire, it is their gaze that stirs you. When night falls, they lift their eyes upward. The sky stretches black and infinite, dotted with stars. The same stars above you now. They do not simply see them, they wonder. The flicker in their gaze is not just survival, it is the birth of curiosity. You sit beside them, looking up together. The constellations are unshaped, nameless, but already they stir stories in the mind. Perhaps they see ancestors, Perhaps they see fires burning across the heavens. Perhaps they simply see beauty. But in that seeing, something awakens. The first questions are forming. Generations pass. Communities grow. Families expand. The knowledge of fire, of tools, of movement spreads like seeds carried by wind. They carve marks on bones, scratch patterns in dirt. These marks hold no language yet, but they echo intention. For the first time, memory reaches beyond one lifetime, carried in symbols, in practice, in teaching. You sense the world shifting. It is not the sudden bloom of the Cambrian seas, nor the thunderous age of dinosaurs. It is quieter, slower, yet no less profound. Here, in the hands of these beings, the future bends. In caves, they paint. At first, shapes simple and rough, the arc of a bison's back, the curve of a hand pressed against stone. These are not accidents. They are choices. They are acts of remembering, of saying, "We were here. This mattered." The walls of caves become pages of the first stories. You step closer, tracing the outline of their palms, their animals, their marks of fire. You realize that through these beginnings, they are no longer just surviving. They are becoming human. The air of the savannah fills with their voices, sharper now, layered with meaning. They call not just to warn, but to share. They teach their young how to shape stones, how to weave fibers, how to find paths through the land. Knowledge no longer dies with one body. It travels forward like light passed from flame to flame. You feel the intimacy of their world. A mother hums softly as she rocks her child, the melody more feeling than song, but already it carries comfort. A hunter returns, greeted with hands that reach, voices that rise in joy. Around fires, laughter stirs, high and strange, yet warm. The world of emotion begins to open, not only lived, but expressed. The earth itself seems to lean closer, watching. Winds whisper through grasslands, rivers murmur through valleys, trees stretch across horizons. And within this vastness, small human hearts beat with a rhythm that will one day echo across the entire planet. Still, they are fragile. Storms sweep across plains. Predators stalk the night. Hunger presses in when rains delay. Yet each hardship is met with thought, with invention. They are not the strongest, not the swiftest, but they adapt. Their survival is no longer chance. It is choice. You walk among them, feeling the first pulse of what will one day become history. Each step they take is slow, uncertain, but layered with meaning. They do not know it, but they are carving paths that lead directly to you. You sit again by the fire, watching sparks rise into the night. Their faces glow with the same wonder you feel when looking at the stars. In their eyes flickers a light not of flame, but of thought. The beginnings of memory, the beginnings of dream. The world has changed many times before. oceans breathing, cells stirring, forests rising, creatures falling. But this change feels different. It feels as though the earth itself has given not just life, but the ability to reflect on life. Not just existence, but awareness. And so, the first humans stir. They walk upright across grasslands. They shape tools from stone. They share warmth around fires. They lift their eyes to the stars. They begin to wonder, and with that wonder, a new age begins to unfold. The fire flickers low, its orange light breathing across stone walls. Around it, shadows lean in close. You hear the murmur of voices, soft and uncertain, as if each sound is both discovery and offering. The first humans sit together, wrapped in furs, their faces warm against the dark, and something extraordinary begins to take shape. It is not fire, it is not stone, it is sound, lifted from breath, woven into meaning. At first, the words are small, little more than calls, cries, or warnings. A rustle for danger, a hum for comfort, a gesture made audible. Yet slowly, like rivers carving valleys, these sounds deepen. They begin to hold memory. They begin to carry what cannot be held in hands. You listen as one voice explains the path to water. Another recalls the taste of fruit in a distant grove. Another whispers of a hunt that ended in joy or grief. With each breath, the invisible becomes visible. Language rises like a current. It does not belong to one alone, but flows between them, connecting thought to thought, heart to heart. You feel it passing like a stream through your fingers, impossible to grasp, yet endlessly nourishing. Around this fire, humanity has found its first great bridge, the ability to step into one another's minds. The cave itself joins the conversation. Its walls shimmer with painted hands, outlines pressed by ash and pigment. Beside them dance animals, herds of bison, shapes of horses, arcs of spears. These are not merely pictures, they are voices, silent but enduring, preserved for those yet unborn. The cave becomes a memory keeper, a library older than words. You walk past the walls, tracing the outlines with your eyes, feeling how image and language braid together into the first myths. At night, after the hunts, stories bloom like stars. A mother sings her child to sleep with sounds that carry comfort more than meaning. A hunter recalls the chase, his words growing larger with each telling, until the prey becomes almost mythical. Around the flames, imagination becomes as real as flesh, weaving bonds that hold the group close. You sense how fragile survival is, yet how strong it becomes when memory is shared. Language is more than description. It is a vessel for emotion. A sigh tells of longing. A laugh carries joy across the circle. A single word, spoken with trembling lips, can hold fear, hope, or love. You listen to the cadence, the pauses, the rhythm that turns sound into music. Slowly, humans learn to place their memories not just in their minds, but in each other's hearts. Music itself soon unfurls, gentle and insistent. A bone flute breathes its first notes, echoing through stone like wind through trees. Drums beat softly against stretched hide, matching the rhythm of 1,000 footsteps, 1,000 heartbeats. Song rises to join language, carrying words further, binding them to melody so they will not be forgotten. You close your eyes and hear how music makes memory easier to hold, easier to pass forward. It turns the fleeting into something lasting. This is the dawn of culture. Fire is no longer only for warmth. It becomes a stage, a gathering place where voices braid into stories and songs. You feel the warmth of belonging here, the sense that memory is no longer an individual burden, but a shared river. One forgets, another remembers. One falters, another speaks. Together, they carry the weight of time. The river flows onward. Generations pass, and words gather like sediments, layering into richer patterns. What began as cries and hums becomes language full of structure. Nouns anchor the world. Verbs set it into motion. Adjectives paint it with color. Grammar, unseen yet powerful, builds a skeleton beneath the stream. Children learn it without instruction, their ears soaking in rhythm, their tongues shaping syllables with ease. You marvel at how natural it feels, as though language were always waiting, hidden in the air, until humans found it. With language, memory stretches further than a single life. A grandparent tells a child of rivers they will never see, of mountains that rise beyond the horizon. Through words, knowledge expands beyond experience. You sense the birth of history, though it is not yet written. A tapestry of voices woven together, fragile but enduring. The myths grow deeper. In the flicker of firelight, humans imagine spirits moving through the forest, ancestors watching from the stars, animals speaking in dreams. These are not falsehoods, but vessels of meaning, ways of carrying wisdom through story. The myths teach caution, reverence, courage. They bind the group with shared understanding, offering guidance in a world still wild and uncertain. You listen as a child hears a tale for the first time, their eyes wide, their breath caught. In that moment, story becomes seed, planted in memory, carried forward. Night after night, the river of language widens. It carries laughter, arguments, prayers. It carries silence too, for words are learned not only in speaking, but in listening. You rest among them, lulled by the rhythm of voices flowing around you, feeling how humanity becomes something more than survival. They are becoming memory itself. Centuries pass in quiet waves. Small groups wander, carrying their words with them like fire hidden in embers. New sounds emerge, shaped by new landscapes. Rivers split into tributaries, forming languages as varied as the people who speak them. Some sounds grow harsh, others soft. Some sing like birds, others thunder like drums. Yet all share the same purpose: to connect, to remember, to belong. You notice how fragile this gift is. A single person lost, a single story untold, and a memory may vanish forever. But equally, a single song, a single whispered tale can carry across centuries. You feel the delicacy and strength of this river. It is never still, never the same, yet always flowing. In this long age, before writing, every story depends on breath. Every memory lives only in the fragile body of a speaker. Yet somehow, it is enough. For thousands upon thousands of years, humanity survives not only because of tools or fire, but because of this, the ability to weave memory into words, to place thought into sound, to carry the past into the future. The fire burns lower, the voices soften. You sit among them, wrapped in their warmth, knowing that the river of memory has only just begun its journey. Ahead lie carvings on stone, ink on clay, symbols etched into permanence. But for now, everything rests in sound, in the rise and fall of voices. You feel yourself drifting with them, carried gently downstream. And as the last story ends, as silence settles around the circle, you sense the question that lingers quietly, waiting in the dark. If memory can flow through voices, what might happen when it is given a body beyond breath? The world stirs with a new rhythm, no longer only the hush of forests or the crackle of firelight. Now there is the steady murmur of many footsteps, the soft beat of countless hands shaping clay, lifting stone, weaving dreams into walls. You drift above wide valleys where rivers curl like silver threads, binding land to life. Along their banks, humans gather, more numerous than ever before, and something vast begins to unfold. The rivers are teachers. They rise with the rains, fall with the seasons, carve the soil rich and fertile. Along the Nile, along the Tigris and Euphrates, along the Indus and the Yellow River, the waters bring both gift and warning. Floods nourish, but they also threaten. To live here requires foresight, patience, cooperation. People dig channels, lift embankments, guide water as though speaking to it in earth and stone. And slowly, villages swell into towns. Towns swell into cities. The first walls rise from mud brick, simple and strong. They keep out floods, winds, and wandering beasts. But they also gather people together. Inside, there is safety. Inside, there is belonging. You walk through narrow streets, hearing the shuffle of sandals, the creak of carts. Smoke drifts from hearths where bread bakes on hot stone. Children laugh in corners, chasing each other past low walls. Everywhere there is movement, a hum of life layered upon life. Trade begins to flow like another river. Boats drift along currents, carrying baskets of grain, clay pots of oil, woven cloth dyed with colors of earth and sky. Caravans move across dry plains, bringing obsidian, copper, lapis, and salt. Each object carries not just utility, but story, where it came from, who touched it, how far it travelled. You listen to the bargaining voices in markets, the rhythm of exchange, the first true heartbeat of economy. But trade is more than goods. It is ideas, drifting from one people to another, gathering like clouds before rain. A tool, a story, a ritual. Each is carried across rivers and deserts, reshaping those who receive it. You realize that the rise of cities is not only about walls and markets. It is about connection, threads woven ever wider, a fabric stretching across landscapes. Above it all, the sky becomes a map. Humans lift their eyes to stars that have always been there, but now they read them as guides. Patterns emerge. Hunters, lions, serpents, bears. The constellations whisper direction, season, promise. Farmers learn when to plant by watching the heavens. Travelers cross deserts by following constellations like companions. The stars, once only mysteries, now become tools, calendars, and silent teachers. Yet memory still hungers for permanence. Voices carry stories, but stories vanish with silence. Something more is needed, something that endures beyond breath. And so, marks begin to appear. At first, they are tallies pressed into clay. A record of sheep, jars of oil, fields of barley. But soon, symbols grow richer. They bend and twist, each carrying sound, idea, meaning. Cuneiform etches itself into clay tablets. Hieroglyphs bloom across temple walls. Scripts emerge, branching like roots, capturing what memory alone cannot. You hold a tablet in your hands, still warm from the sun. Pressed into its surface are lines and wedges, a transaction, a record of trade. It feels simple, yet immense. Here, memory has been given a body outside of breath. Writing does not fade when the speaker dies. It lingers, waiting for another eye to see, another hand to trace. Humanity has found a way to speak across time itself. With writing comes power. Rulers carve their names into stone, claiming authority not just in life but in eternity. Laws are set down, visible to all, binding communities with order. Myths are written, fixing the voices of ancestors into form. What was once fluid becomes lasting. You sense both wonder and weight in this, the gift of permanence and the burden of being remembered. The city itself becomes a living body. Streets are its veins, carrying people like blood. Markets are its lungs, inhaling and exhaling goods and ideas. Temples rise as its heart, beating with ritual, prayer, and awe. Around them, towers climb upward, brick upon brick, as though humans cannot resist touching the sky. You wander through these spaces, hearing the resonance of footsteps on stone, the murmur of many voices blending into a single hum. But the city is not only harmony, it is also tension. Crowds bring conflict as well as connection. Greed rises alongside generosity. Walls protect, but they also divide. Power pools in the hands of some, leaving others in shadow. You notice how fragile balance becomes when so many lives weave together. Yet despite the strain, the city endures, growing, learning, remaking itself again and again. At night, the hum softens. Fires glow in courtyards, and the voices of families rise, echoing those first circles long ago. A child listens as a grandparent tells a story now written in symbols, preserved in clay or carved in stone. Yet still it is spoken, still it is shared by breath, for writing does not replace voice, but joins it, extending its reach. You feel how the river of memory, once only oral, now splits into two streams, one flowing in sound, the other in symbol. Together, they carry humanity forward. As centuries fold into centuries, the cities grow more complex. Hammurabi's code is carved in stone. Temples record hymns to gods of sun and river. The Epic of Gilgamesh, pressed into clay, sings of friendship, grief, and the longing for immortality. These are not just records, they are mirrors. They reveal how humans see themselves, how they dream, how they struggle with mortality. You read their words as if they were written yesterday, realizing how little the heart has changed. The city hums louder, bells ring in towers, messengers run through gates. The scent of spices drifts from market stalls. You feel yourself floating above it, hearing the pulse of humanity, each life a note in a vast chorus. And yet, through the noise, you sense a thread of continuity. The same spark that began in whispers around the fire now expanded into symphonies of stone, script, and song. Time folds around you. Cities rise and fall. Some vanish into dust, their walls swallowed by sand, their temples broken by time. Others endure, rebuilt upon their own ruins, layer upon layer, voices upon voices. You see that the city is not eternal, yet the idea of the city is. It survives in every culture that learns to gather, to build, to remember together. As dawn breaks, light spills over rooftops and towers. You watch as the city stirs again, doors opening, voices rising, markets swelling with life. The hum grows stronger, carrying you forward. For in this chorus of stone and sound lies a deeper question, one not yet answered. If humans can shape rivers into walls and memory into symbols, what might happen when they begin to shape entire worlds of belief? The city hums behind you, its walls firm, its markets alive, its temples tall. Yet as you step away from the noise, you find another current running through humanity, one less visible than stone or script. It is the current of thought, slow, restless, uncontainable. You sit beneath a tree, beside a river, under a dome of stars, and you feel it stirring all around you. The age of questions. The questions begin softly. What lies beyond the river's bend? Why does the moon vanish and return? Why do bodies fall to the earth, yet flames rise to the sky? These questions are not yet science. They are wonder given voice, curiosity turned outward. You listen as voices stretch toward the unknown, each word like a hand reaching into the dark. In Greece, men and women gather in open courtyards, their words circling like birds. They ask about justice, virtue, the nature of the soul. In India, sages sit in forests, weaving meditations into questions about the self, the cosmos, and the cycle of life. In China, scholars walk gardens, pondering harmony, duty, the order of heaven and earth. Though far apart, their voices echo one another. Humanity is asking, again and again, what it means to live, to know, to be. Some questions turn toward the heavens. Philosophers tilt their heads back and watch stars flicker across velvet dark. They wonder, are these fires, or gods, or infinite worlds? They trace patterns with string and rod, predicting eclipses, measuring shadows, discovering that the heavens move with rhythm. The stars, once only mystery, begin to reveal laws hidden in their paths. Others look downward, to the earth itself. They ask why rivers flood, why stones crumble, why crops fail. They peer into bodies, tracing veins, measuring pulse, listening to the beat of life as if it were a secret drum. They grind herbs into powders, boil roots into medicine, test what heals and what harms. Slowly, observation becomes method, and method becomes knowledge. You drift among them, sitting quietly beside each thinker. With Socrates, you hear the power of questions that never claim final answers. With Confucius, you feel the calm weight of order and duty. With the sages of the Upanishads, you sense the depth of silence, where a single breath holds eternity. With early scientists in Alexandria, you trace the curve of glass, watching how light bends, learning that the eye itself can be studied. Not all questions find answers. Many dissolve into silence. Yet even silence becomes a kind of wisdom. To sit beneath the stars and admit, I do not know, is itself a step forward. You feel how humility deepens the river of knowledge, shaping its banks, guiding its flow. But the questions multiply. They branch like trees, dividing into philosophy, mathematics, medicine, astronomy. Pythagoras listens to numbers and hears music in their ratios. Hippocrates studies illness and begins to imagine medicine not as magic, but as craft. In China, astronomers measure eclipses with precision. In India, thinkers calculate the vastness of time in cycles that stretch beyond imagination. Everywhere, humans are learning not just to live, but to ask why and how. The answers are slow, fragile, imperfect. Yet they build. Each insight is a stone, and together they form pathways across the unknown. You walk along these paths carefully, feeling how tentative they are, yet how solid they become with use. What was once invisible begins to take form. The shape of the earth, the weight of air, the cycle of blood, the orbit of planets. Still, you notice something gentle and unchanging. For all the progress, for all the discoveries, wonder never fades. The more they learn, the more they see what remains unseen. Knowledge does not erase mystery, it deepens it. You feel the paradox. Every answer leads not to an ending, but to more questions. Night falls again, clear and vast. You sit with the thinkers beneath the stars. Their voices are low, their tones calm. They debate, they reason, they disagree, but above them the constellations remain steady, patient, eternal. In their glow, you realize that humanity is learning not only facts, but also how to dwell in uncertainty. Questions are no longer threats, they are companions. You lean back, breathing in the cool air. Around you the fire crackles, the scrolls rustle, the voices murmur. The city sleeps, but the mind does not. It roams beyond walls, beyond rivers, beyond time. You feel yourself drifting with it, carried by the same current that carried those first voices around the fire. And as dawn begins to lighten the horizon, you sense the quiet turning of another page. Questions have given rise to knowledge, but soon, knowledge will grow into something vaster still. Systems, methods, sciences that can test the world itself. You linger in the silence, holding the thought gently, as though touching the edge of a future not yet fully born. The air begins to tremble with a new rhythm. It is not the slow beat of footsteps on soil, nor the hush of sails across the sea. It is sharper, louder, insistent. The hiss of steam, the grind of gears, the hammer of iron striking iron. You drift across landscapes that once held only farms and forests, and you see them reshaped into something restless, something ceaseless, the birth of industry. It begins quietly, with water turning wheels. Rivers that once carried only boats now power looms, mills, and forges. The current of water becomes the current of work, and time itself feels pulled faster. Villages swell into towns, towns into cities, their streets buzzing with motion. Smoke curls upward, a new kind of cloud, soft yet choking, drifting across skies once clear. Steam becomes breath for machines. A kettle whistles, a piston surges, and suddenly power no longer depends on muscle or wind. Coal, dark and ancient, is burned into energy, unlocking forces buried for millions of years. With steam, locomotives thunder across rails, carrying goods and people at speeds once unimaginable. Canals give way to tracks, and tracks stretch like veins across continents. Distance shrinks. What was once weeks of travel becomes days, then hours. You feel the world folding inward, closer, tighter. Iron grows into skeletons of progress. Bridges leap across rivers, factories rise with endless windows, ships clad in metal cut through oceans. The earth itself is mined, carved, extracted, its hidden wealth dragged upward into daylight. Humans are no longer only shaping wood or clay. They are shaping the very bones of the planet. The sound is unrelenting, the clang of hammers, the roar of furnaces, the steady rhythm of machines that do not sleep. Cities glow brighter. Gas lamps line the streets, pushing back the night, lengthening the hours of work and gathering. Darkness, once the natural pause of every day, now bends beneath human hands. Nights shorten. The hum of activity continues through twilight, spilling into dawn. You walk through cobblestone alleys lit with warm flames inside glass globes, and you feel both awe and unease. The city is alive in a new way, yet its pulse is fast, almost fevered. In the factories, the hum becomes thunder. Rows of looms clatter, wheels spin, belts turn endlessly. Workers bend their backs, hands roar, eyes weary. Children scurry between machines, small enough to crawl into spaces adults cannot reach. Progress is undeniable, but so too is exhaustion. You feel it in the air, the exhilaration of invention, the weight of labor. Both vibrate together, inseparable. Invention multiplies like sparks. The telegraph carries words across wires, collapsing distance even further. Faster becomes the rhythm of life, faster communication, faster transport, faster production. Human voices no longer need to wait for ships or messengers. They leap along copper threads, traveling at the speed of lightning. You hear the clicking of keys, the faint electric pulse, the wonder of hearing a message arrive from miles away. But with every spark, the earth shifts. Forests fall to fuel furnaces. Rivers are redirected, channeled into wheels and turbines. Mines dig deeper, gouging into stone for coal and ore. The planet, once shaping itself through slow, patient forces, now bends quickly under human hands. You notice the imbalance. Progress surges, but it feeds on Earth's body, consuming what took ages to form. Still, wonder fills the air. People marvel at locomotives racing across the countryside, their steam clouds trailing like banners. Crowds gather to watch hot air balloons rise into skies, carrying humans higher than birds. Science itself finds new homes in laboratories, where glass tubes and brass instruments shimmer with possibility. Chemistry, physics, and biology stretch their limbs, eager to ask questions that machines might help answer. You sense a new kind of curiosity, not just about stars or rivers, but about energy, mechanics, the invisible laws of matter itself. The rhythm of society shifts as well. Farmers leave fields for factories, trading the slowness of seasons for the speed of machines. Families crowd into city quarters, narrow and crowded, where smoke lingers in every breath. New wealth gathers in towers, while new poverty spreads in shadows. The city hums with both promise and struggle, both invention and inequality. You feel the tension in its pulse, like a string pulled tight, and yet the energy is undeniable. Progress feels unstoppable, like a tide rising higher each year. Steamships cross oceans with certainty, their journeys no longer dependent on fickle winds. Railroads stitch continents together, iron lines drawing maps across prairies, deserts, and mountains. Empires stretch their reach further, powered by machines that multiply their strength. The world grows smaller, yet its hunger grows larger. Even the rhythm of daily life changes. Clocks hang in factories, ticking not just the hours, but the minutes, the seconds. Time itself becomes measured, precise, demanding. The sun still rises and sets, but work is now bound not to nature, but to machines. The whistle of the factory replaces the crow of the rooster. The pace of life quickens. You feel yourself swept along, heart matching the tempo of gears. But in the quiet moments, questions linger. Is this progress or burden? Is the glow of lamps worth the smoke in lungs? Is the speed of trains worth the silence of forests cut away? Humanity does not yet pause to answer. It surges forward, entranced by what it can build, compelled by what it can achieve. You walk beside workers leaving factories at dusk, their faces smudged with soot, their hands rough, their steps heavy. Yet in their eyes flicker sparks of pride, for they know they are part of something vast, something new, something that will outlast them. Progress may exhaust, but it also inspires. Every machine feels like a promise, every invention like a doorway. The hum of industry does not stop. It spreads from Britain to Europe, from Europe to the Americas, from cities to colonies across the world. Steamships, railroads, and telegraphs knit continents together, but they also bind humanity to a shared fate. No region remains untouched. Everywhere, the planet itself feels the pressure of iron and fire. Night settles, but the city does not sleep. Lamps glow, factories churn, locomotives whistle into the dark. The hum becomes a lullaby and a warning. You feel the duality of it, the excitement of progress, the exhaustion of endless labor, the awe of invention, the ache of imbalance. The world is shifting beneath your feet, and the ground itself feels restless. And as you drift above the glowing cities, smoke rising, rivers churning with wheels, you sense that humanity has crossed a threshold. The age of steam and iron has begun, and with it comes a question not yet spoken. If machines can multiply power so greatly, where might they carry us next? You open your eyes, and the hum of machines has changed. No longer only the hiss of steam or the clatter of iron, but a softer, subtler rhythm. The quiet buzz of electricity, the invisible pulse of satellites circling above, the glow of screens that light faces in the dark. The story of Earth has not ended with industry, it has only changed its shape. You stand now in the present, where past and future touch like waves meeting on a shore. Look up. Beyond the roof of clouds, satellites orbit silently, silver messengers gliding through blackness. They watch oceans and forests, track storms and seasons, and carry voices across continents in less than a heartbeat. Where once words travelled by runner, by ship, by telegraph, now they leap skyward, bouncing between machines before returning to ears far away. The world has never been so connected, so immediate. You feel the distance shrink to almost nothing, as if Earth itself has grown smaller, more intimate, drawn tight by threads of light. And yet, beneath those orbits, seeds still split the soil. Farmers bend to plant them, rains fall to nourish them, the sun warms them. For all our machines and wires, the old rhythms endure. A seed does not rush. It does not hurry for the future. It grows by ancient laws, patient and slow, whispering that the dream of tomorrow is still rooted in the ground. The world is now a braid of opposites, satellites and seeds, screens and soil, rockets and rivers. You walk among them, hearing both the hum of circuits and the rustle of leaves. Humans live at the edge of two immensities, the boundless universe above and the fragile planet beneath. In between, they build, dream, invent, question. Everywhere, screens flicker. On desks, in hands, on walls, they glow like small suns, carrying images, stories, knowledge and distractions. With a single touch, you can see a storm across the ocean, hear a song from another land, learn the story of a star born millions of years ago, the sum of human memory, once etched in clay, written on scrolls, printed in books, now lives inside luminous rectangles. You feel the wonder of it, the universe folded into light. But light can be heavy too. With every new connection comes noise. With every new possibility comes choice. The mind, like the planet, can feel crowded, restless, overwhelmed. Progress is both gift and weight, both lantern and shadow. You sit quietly, letting the glow of screens wash over you, but also sensing the need to look away, to remember the silence of oceans and the patience of seeds. Above you, stars still shine. They have not changed, though our ways of seeing them have. Telescopes orbit the Earth, gazing deeper than eyes alone ever could. They peer into galaxies stretched thin by time, into the afterglow of the Big Bang itself, into mysteries that remind us we are still at the beginning of knowing. Satellites measure Earth, but telescopes remind us of scale, that our world is a small island in a vast, ancient sea. You feel both small and infinite at once, humbled by the cosmos, yet lifted by belonging to it. And here, in this present, the earth itself waits. It breathes with forests and oceans, but also struggles under the weight of human desire. The air holds our smoke, the waters carry our waste, the soil feels our hunger for more. Progress has given us wings of steel, voices of light, machines that think, yet it asks us a question we cannot escape. How do we live with all this power? You walk through cities lit brighter than constellations, their towers reaching like modern mountains, their roads alive with wheels and lights. You see trains that glide silently, planes that cross oceans in hours, rockets that touch the edge of space. The dream of tomorrow no longer belongs only to imagination. It rises on launch pads, hums in laboratories, hides in seeds of code. Yet you also see people pausing, planting gardens in rooftops, listening to birds between skyscrapers, remembering that progress without balance is only half a dream. In this age, science and spirit meet more often than they seem apart. Physics explains the dance of particles, but wonder remains in the quiet pause of a sunrise. Biology reveals the threads of DNA, but awe still lingers in the birth of a child. Technology connects billions, but wisdom whispers in stillness. You notice that humanity, for all its machines, still looks at the stars with the same timeless question: what comes next? Perhaps tomorrow belongs not only to invention, but to remembrance. To remembering that satellites depend on gravity, that screens depend on minerals from the earth, that every spark of technology still roots itself in natural law. The dream of tomorrow may not be about leaving Earth, but learning to stay with it, gently, wisely, together. And yet, dreams do not stay still. Rockets rise, carrying probes to Mars, to moons, to distant ice. Telescopes hunt for signs of life beyond our own sky. Genes are edited, atoms split, energy captured from wind and sun. Tomorrow glimmers like a horizon that keeps receding, always just beyond reach, always calling us forward. You stand at the edge of that horizon. Around you hum the satellites, the seeds, the screens, the stars. You feel yourself woven into their tapestry, not separate from the story of Earth, but inside it. Your breath mingles with the planet's breath. Your questions mingle with humanity's questions. The story of Earth is not finished. It is still being written, every day with every choice. The night deepens, yet you feel no fear. Instead, there is a quiet wonder, a gentle calm. Tomorrow is vast, uncertain, filled with both shadows and light. But so was yesterday, and still the earth endures. You close your eyes, letting the hum of the present lull you, letting the dream of tomorrow wrap around you like a soft blanket. You drift, as if carried by unseen currents, not back into the past, not far into the future, but into the timeless space where wonder rests. The story is still unfolding. The dream is still alive. And you, breathing, listening, waiting, are part of it.